Maya Williams, you're suspected of stealing county evidence. A girl in a wheelchair like you should know her place. Don't make me cuff you in front of this whole diner. Deputy Carter Voss stood beside Maya's booth at Reed's Diner with a court order in his hand. Maya Williams looked up from her breakfast. She did not reach for the paper. She did not lower her eyes. What evidence? She asked. Carter dropped the order on the table. Cedar Mill records. County property. Judge Bellamy signed the order last night. You either hand them over, or you come with me. I don't have county evidence. That's not what my witness says. Maya turned toward the kitchen doorway. Tommy Ellis stood there holding a bus tub. His face was tense. He would not look at her. Carter raised his voice. Tommy, tell her what you told me. Tommy swallowed. I saw her with an envelope. Maya stared at him. Tommy, I'm sorry, he said, barely above a whisper. That's what I saw. Carter smiled. There. A witness. Now we can do this the easy way. He pulled a second paper from his jacket and placed it in front of her. Sign. Maya read the first line. I, Maya Williams, acknowledge that I knowingly retained county evidence without authorization. She looked back at him. This is a confession. It's cooperation. It's a lie. It becomes a problem only if you make it one. Martha Reed stepped out from behind the counter. Deputy Voss. Maybe she should call a lawyer before signing anything. Carter turned to her. Martha, stay out of police business unless you want your diner dragged into this. Martha stopped. Her hand tightened around the coffee pot. Maya kept her eyes on Carter. You came here to scare me. I came here to enforce a lawful order. Then, enforce it lawfully. Carter leaned down. You always did talk too much for someone with no power. Maya's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed even. Power is not the same as a badge. Carter's face hardened. He tapped the paper. Sign it, Maya. If you refuse, I arrest you for obstruction. At 6 p.m., your house behind Black Grace gets sealed. Everything inside becomes county property. Papers, photographs, recordings, whatever you've been hiding. Maya's hand moved once on the armrest of her wheelchair. Cedar Mill, Pine Creek, 2 children on the church steps. Her own voice years ago. I don't know how to raise them. I just know I can't leave them. She pushed the paper back. No. Carter stared at her. No? No. You understand what happens at 6? I understand what you're trying to do. I'm giving you one last chance, and I'm giving you the same answer. Carter reached for the handles of her wheelchair. Then I'll take you in. Don't touch my chair. He ignored her. Maya lifted her voice. I said don't touch my chair. The bell above the diner door rang. 2 black men stepped inside, moving with a quiet, synchronized precision that immediately cut the air in the room. They didn't shout. One instantly moved to flank the counter, cutting off Carter's line of retreat, while the other raised a phone, lens locked directly onto the deputy's hand. Time is 10:42 a.m., the man with the phone said, his voice flat and authoritative. Location: Reed's Diner. Deputy Carter Voss is using physical intimidation against a disabled citizen without a stated charge. Carter's hand snapped off the wheelchair handle. He turned, his chest puffing out. Who the hell are you? The camera didn't waver. Your worst nightmare. A witness with a live stream. The second man stepped into Carter's personal space, his posture rigid and towering. Read the order aloud, deputy. Carter scoffed. I don't report to you. You report to the law. Read the charge. State on camera whether Miss Williams was denied her right to counsel before being forced to sign. You're interfering with official county business, Carter barked, pointing a finger. We are documenting a civil rights violation, the man replied, completely unbothered by the finger. He reached down, picked up the paper Maya had pushed away, flicked his eyes over the first line, and dropped it back. This isn't a cooperation waiver. It's a coerced admission of guilt. If your paperwork is legal, read it to the lens. Let the federal investigators judge your grammar. Carter's lips tightened into a thin line. He looked from the phone to the locked posture of the man in front of him. Martha moved closer to Maya's booth. She did not speak, but she no longer stood behind the counter. Tommy remained by the kitchen door. His eyes stayed down. Carter gathered the court order and the confession form. This is not over. Maya looked at him. It never was. Carter pointed at her. 6 o'clock, Maya. When that clock hits 6, your house, your papers, and your lies belong to the county. He walked out. The door closed behind him. For a moment, no one moved. Maya looked at the two men. Her face changed before she spoke. Isaiah, she whispered. Elijah, why did you come back? Elijah lowered his phone. Isaiah opened his heavy jacket, just enough for her to see the crisp military uniform underneath. He looked down at her, his stone-cold expression finally softening. Because you stood for us first. Elijah turned toward the window. Carter sat in his patrol car outside. Already on the phone, Elijah said, and because whatever he wants by 6 o'clock, he's afraid you still have it. Maya did not take her eyes off the patrol car. Carter was still outside, phone pressed to his ear, his mouth moving fast. He kept looking through the diner window at Isaiah and Elijah. Whatever confidence he had carried into Reed's diner had not left with him. It had changed into something more dangerous. Isaiah stepped between Maya and the window. You need to come with us. Maya looked up at him. No. Elijah turned from the window. Mama, don't call me that in here. The word came out sharper than she meant it to. Elijah stopped. Isaiah's expression did not change, but Maya saw the hurt land. She lowered her voice. I'm sorry, but you both need to listen. Carter is not acting alone. He doesn't move unless Judge Bellamy clears the road first. Isaiah pulled a chair from the nearest table and sat facing her. Then we start with Bellamy. Maya gave a short, tired laugh. You don't start with Bellamy. He doesn't make legal mistakes, and he controls every clerk in the county courthouse. Elijah slid his phone into his jacket, but kept one hand near it. We recorded Carter coercing you. That matters. It matters if someone in this county is willing to care. Then we go outside the county. You think he hasn't already planned for that? Martha Reed moved closer. She still held the coffee pot, though there was no cup in her hand. Maya, I didn't know he was coming in like that. Maya looked at her. But you knew he was coming. Martha's lips parted, then closed. Isaiah stood. Answer her. Martha looked down. Carter came by before opening. Said there might be trouble. Said if anyone interfered, he'd consider it obstruction. He asked about the cameras. Elijah's attention sharpened. What did you tell him? That they work. And, Martha swallowed. He told me they better not become a problem. Maya closed her eyes for 1 second, then opened them. Martha, I need that footage. Martha shook her head. I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't. This diner is all I have. My daddy opened it before I was born. Carter can shut me down with one inspection. Isaiah looked ready to speak, but Maya raised a hand. She's scared, Maya said. That's what they count on. Martha's eyes filled. I am scared. I know. Tommy still stood at the kitchen doorway. Elijah turned toward him. Tommy, the young worker flinched. You told Carter she had an envelope, Elijah said. Tommy gripped the bus tub with both hands. I saw what I saw. Maya's voice softened. Did you? Tommy finally looked at her. His face looked tight with fear. I'm sorry, Miss Maya. Carter's patrol car door opened outside. Everyone turned, but Carter did not come back in. He stood beside the car, still on the phone, watching them. Then he got in and pulled away from the curb. Elijah checked the time on his phone. We have until 6. Maya's hand moved to the wheel of her chair. No, you have until the next road out of town. Isaiah stared at her. We just got here, and you can leave before they turn you into the story. They already tried. They haven't started. Maya pointed toward the window. By noon, the local station will have Carter standing in front of the sheriff's office saying a disabled woman attacked county procedure, and 2 military men threatened a deputy. By supper, half this town will repeat it, Elijah said. Let them. We have video. They have a judge. Isaiah leaned forward. We have you. Maya's face tightened. For a moment, she looked away from both of them. I kept you alive. That was all I knew how to do. The diner went quiet again. Elijah's voice lowered. Is this about our parents? Maya did not answer right away. The bell above the door rang again. Pastor Ruth Coleman entered with a worn leather purse tucked under one arm and her Sunday hat still pinned neatly, though it was not Sunday. She took in the room, the papers on the table, Maya's face, the two men standing close to her, and Martha near the counter. "Lord help this town," Pastor Ruth said. "Carter Voss has been waiting years to do this in daylight." Maya's shoulders dropped a little. "Pastor Ruth." The older woman came to her and laid one hand on her shoulder. "Child, I heard enough on the phone to know you are out of time." Isaiah looked at her. "You know about Cedar Mill?" "I know what Maya trusted me to know." Elijah stepped closer. "Then tell us." Pastor Ruth looked at Maya, not at him. "That is not mine to open." Maya shook her head. "There's nothing to open. Not anymore." "That isn't true," Pastor Ruth said. "Carter is not afraid of what you stole. He is afraid of what you kept." Maya's jaw tightened. Isaiah spoke carefully. "What did you keep?" Maya reached into the side pocket of her chair and pulled out a small key attached to a faded paper tag. Her fingers closed around it before she let them see. Elijah read the tag. "Locker 19. Old County Archive Annex." Martha drew in a breath. "Maya." Maya looked at her. "Don't," Pastor Ruth said. "If Bellamy seals your house at 6, they will search every drawer, every Bible, every floorboard. If there is anything left, they will take it." Isaiah held out his hand for the key, but Maya did not give it to him. She looked at both men. "When I was 18, I had no money, no lawyer, and 2 children the county was ready to scatter. I made choices because I had no good choices. If you come with me now, you may hear things you wish I had told you years ago." Elijah's face hardened, but his voice stayed controlled. "Did you lie to us?" I stayed silent. "That's not the same answer." "No," Maya said. "It isn't." Isaiah took a breath through his nose and looked toward the table. When he spoke, the anger was there, but he held it steady. "Were our parents murdered?" Martha looked away. Tommy lowered his head again. Pastor Ruth closed her eyes. Maya's grip tightened around the key. "I don't know everything. I know they found something at Cedar Mill. I know Pine Creek was closed before anyone from outside the county could ask questions. I know. Your parents were blamed before they were buried." Elijah's jaw muscle twitched, but his military posture didn't break. "And you kept that from us?" "I kept you breathing," Maya said, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "Dead boys don't get to ask questions. If you feel for Maya, the woman who silently carried everything just to keep those 2 boys alive, please like this video and comment where you are watching from, your city or your state. Who knows? There may be someone near you listening to Maya's story and feeling the same pain right now." Isaiah didn't let the emotional shock derail the timeline. He checked the tactical watch on his wrist, then opened his hand toward her. "The past is fixed. The next 7 hours aren't. Give us the key." Maya looked at his hand. She placed the key in it. Elijah checked the window, then the front door. "We need to move before Carter circles back." Pastor Ruth nodded. "I'll call Grace Holloway." Maya turned sharply. "Ruth." "No." "Yes," Pastor Ruth said. "That girl has been waiting for a fight that deserves her. She's in Atlanta. Then she knows the road." Martha set the coffee pot down on the nearest table. "What do you need from me?" Maya looked at her for a long moment. "The truth." Martha's face trembled. "I don't know if I'm brave enough." Pastor Ruth answered before Maya could. "Then start by not being useful to a lie." Tommy shifted near the kitchen door, his fingers tapping a fast, rhythmic pattern against the plastic bus tub. Elijah's eyes dropped to the kid's hands. It wasn't random trembling, it was 3 short taps. 3 long, 3 short. S, O, S. Then, Tommy flashed 2 fingers quickly against his thigh. 2 cameras. Elijah caught Isaiah's eye and gave a nearly invisible nod. They didn't blow his cover. "Keep your head down, Tommy," Isaiah said coldly, playing along for anyone watching. "We're leaving." Elijah opened the diner door and checked the sidewalk. Clear. Isaiah moved behind Maya's chair. He stopped before touching it. "May I?" Maya looked up at him. The smallest smile crossed her face and vanished. "Yes." He guided her toward the door. Pastor Ruth walked beside them. Martha stayed in the diner, one hand over her mouth. Tommy disappeared back into the kitchen. They stepped out onto the sidewalk, scanning the street for any immediate county vehicles. Elijah held up the key. "Old County Archive Annex," he said. "Locker 19. Maya looked down Main Street toward the courthouse. "Carter will have someone watching it." Isaiah opened the passenger door of their vehicle. Then, "We don't waste time." Maya paused before getting in. She looked once more at Reed's diner. "I never wanted you boys back in this." Elijah met her eyes. "We were always in it. We just didn't know the names." Isaiah helped her into the vehicle, folded the chair, and secured it in the back. Pastor Ruth stood on the curb and lifted 2 fingers in a small blessing. As they pulled away from Reed's diner, Maya saw Carter's patrol car turn onto Main Street 2 blocks behind them. Elijah saw it too. "He's following." Isaiah kept both hands on the wheel. "Let him." Maya looked at the key in Elijah's hand. By 6 o'clock, Carter would seal Maya's house. If they didn't clear out locker 19 before the courthouse closed at 5, Bellamy's men would burn the archive paperwork, and the paper trail would go cold permanently. Isaiah turned off Main Street before Carter's patrol car could close the distance. Elijah looked through the rear window. "He stayed on Main. He wants us to know he can follow," Isaiah said. Maya kept one hand on the door handle and the other on the folded paper tag from the key. "He doesn't need to follow us all the way. He just needs one clerk to make a call. Then we move before the clerk has time to think," Elijah said. The old county archive annex sat behind the courthouse, in a low brick building with narrow windows and a faded county seal above the entrance. It had once been a records office. Now it stored old tax files, property maps, court copies, and the kind of documents officials hoped nobody would ask to see. Isaiah parked 2 blocks away, behind a closed barber shop. He unloaded Maya's wheelchair without speaking. This time, he waited for her nod before helping her settle into it. Maya noticed. "Thank you," she said. Isaiah gave one short nod. "Always." Elijah checked the street. "No patrol car. Don't trust that," Maya said. "Carter likes other people's eyes." They moved toward the archive annex. Maya kept her chin up. Isaiah walked to her left. Elijah walked half a step behind, watching windows, doors, reflections in parked cars. At the entrance, an older clerk sat behind a glass partition. Her nameplate read Mrs. Darlene Price. She looked up, saw Maya, then saw the twins. Her hand moved toward the phone. Maya spoke first. "Darlene." The woman stopped. "I need access to a private locker." Darlene's eyes moved to the key in Elijah's hand. "The archive closes at 5. "It's not 5. "No. But we've had an early closure notice." Elijah stepped closer to the glass. "Posted where?" Darlene blinked. "Excuse me?" "County closures have to be posted." "Front door, county website, internal log." "Which one?" Darlene looked away. "I only do what I'm told." Maya rolled forward. "Who told you?" Darlene did not answer. Isaiah placed both hands on the counter, calm but firm. "Ma'am, we are not here to argue. We need the locker. You can log the access properly, or we can record that the county denied a disabled citizen access to her own stored property during public hours." Darlene looked at the phone in Elijah's hand. Her mouth tightened. "Locker number? 19, Maya said. Darlene unlocked a drawer and pulled out a sign-in sheet. Name, time, locker number. Elijah took the pen. Time? Darlene glanced at the wall clock. 1:16 p.m. Elijah wrote the words instead of numbers. 1:16 p.m. Locker 19. Maya Williams. Darlene pressed a buzzer. A side door clicked open. 10 minutes, she said. Maya looked at her. You know that isn't the rule. Darlene lowered her voice. It is today. The storage room smelled closed up. Rows of metal lockers lined the back wall. Boxes sat on steel shelves with handwritten labels. Tax deeds, road surveys, court exhibits, auction notices. Elijah went straight to locker 19. Isaiah stood by the door. Maya held out her hand. Let me. Elijah gave her the key. Her fingers shook once before she steadied them. The lock turned. Inside were 3 file envelopes, 1 small tape case, a plastic pouch of photographs, and an old ledger folder tied with string. Maya closed her eyes for one breath. Elijah said, We photograph everything first. Maya nodded. He laid the documents on a metal table and began taking pictures with his phone. Isaiah kept watch through the narrow glass window in the door. The first envelope held land records. Families Maya knew. The Parkers, the Freemans, the Tates. Properties marked delinquent, seized for back taxes, then sold to companies connected to Cedar Mill. Elijah's voice stayed controlled. Same pattern. Tax pressure, forced sale, private transfer. Maya pointed to one signature. Bellamy. Isaiah turned from the door. He was already signing these back then? He was county counsel before he became judge, Maya said. He learned where the locks were before he got the keys. The second envelope held photographs. A county truck outside Cedar Mill. A side gate left open. A patrol car near Pine Creek. The picture was blurred, but the number on the side door was visible enough. Elijah enlarged it on his phone. Sheriff's unit. Raymond Voss, Maya said. Isaiah's jaw set. Carter's father. Maya nodded. The third envelope held a letter. It was sealed, yellowed, and addressed in careful handwriting to Maya Williams. Elijah reached for it. Maya put her hand over the letter. Not here. It's from our mother, isn't it? Maya did not deny it. Isaiah stepped closer. Maya, her eyes lifted to his. If you open that in this building, Carter wins twice. Once by forcing the truth out before we're safe, and again by making your grief happen on county property. Elijah pulled his hand back. His face was tight. Then we take it with us. Yes, Maya said. We take it. Elijah opened the ledger folder. Inside were payment sheets, trucking schedules, initials, dates, property codes, and copies of old checks. He photographed page after page. Then he stopped. What? Isaiah asked. Elijah looked at the folder's metal prongs. A page was removed. Maya rolled closer. The last sheet ended in the middle of an entry. The next page was gone. Maya touched the torn edge. That page was here. When I locked it away. Isaiah looked toward the door. Who else had access? Someone with county clearance, Elijah said. Maya's face went still. Or someone who knew Judge Bellamy would one day need it gone. A sound came from the front office. A chair moved. Then Darlene's voice, low and urgent. Isaiah raised a hand. Elijah gathered the documents fast. We need to leave. Maya pointed at the tape case. Don't forget that. Elijah grabbed it. As he lifted the empty ledger folder, something slid from the back cover and dropped to the floor. A blue sugar packet. All three of them froze. Isaiah picked it up. This was in the locker. Elijah took it from him and turned it over. The packet was from Reed's diner. Maya frowned. That makes no sense. Elijah's eyes sharpened. Tommy. Isaiah looked at him. You think he planted it? I think he wanted us to know the missing page, and the diner cameras are connected. Maya remembered Tommy's fingers tapping against the bus tub. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. 2 fingers against his thigh. 2 cameras, she said. Elijah nodded. 1 main system. 1 backup. The side door opened. Darlene stood there, pale. You need to go. Now. Isaiah moved first. Who called? Darlene's lips trembled. I said go. Maya wheeled toward her. Darlene, did Carter tell you to close early? Darlene looked down the hall. He said anyone helping you could be charged. Elijah put the files inside his jacket. Too late for that. Darlene stepped aside. They moved through the front office. As they reached the entrance, the phone on Darlene's desk rang again. She did not answer. Outside, the street looked clear for half a second. Then, a county sedan turned the corner. Isaiah moved behind Maya's chair. Fast. Elijah opened the vehicle door. They're trying to box us in. Maya held the sealed letter against her chest. If Bellamy knows we opened the locker, he knows the last page is all that matters. Isaiah helped her into the vehicle. Then we find it before he does. Elijah got in and checked the blue sugar packet again. Not the last page first, he said. The diner footage. Tommy gave us the next door. Isaiah started the engine. Maya looked back at the archive annex as Darlene pulled the shade down over the front window. The past was no longer locked away. It was moving. and Carter Voss had heard the lock turn. Isaiah drove 3 blocks without speaking, then turned behind the old pharmacy and parked where the vehicle could not be seen from Main Street. Elijah was already sorting the documents on his lap. He kept the sealed letters separate and placed the tape case beside it. Maya watched his hands. "Don't open that letter here." "I won't." Isaiah looked at them through the rearview mirror. "What do we have?" Elijah answered fast. "Land seizures, Bellamy signatures, Cedar Mill, transfer records, a photo of Raymond Voss's patrol car near Pine Creek, a tape, a letter from our mother, and a ledger with the final page missing." Maya closed her eyes for a moment. "That final page is why Carter came today. Then he knows what was in the locker," Isaiah said. "Or Bellamy does," Elijah replied. "Carter is muscle. Bellamy is the one moving paper." Maya looked toward the street. "We need Pastor Ruth." Isaiah took out his phone. "She's already calling Grace." Elijah held up the blue sugar packet. "And we need Reed's Diner." Maya's face tightened. "Martha already said no. She said no because Carter scared her," Elijah said. "Tommy didn't say no. He told Carter I had an envelope. He also tapped SOS and showed 2 fingers," Elijah said. "2 cameras, main system and backup." Isaiah's phone rang before Maya could answer. He put it on speaker. Pastor Ruth's voice came through. "Where are you?" "Behind Lee's pharmacy," Isaiah said. "Stay there only long enough to breathe. Grace Holloway is on the road from Atlanta. She says not to call local lawyers. She says Bellamy will hear before the receptionist hangs up." Maya leaned closer. "Ruth, Carter knows about the archive." "I figured as much. Darlene Price called me crying. Said the county ordered an early closure." Elijah asked, "Did she say who gave the order?" "Bellamy's clerk." Isaiah looked at Maya. "That answers that." Pastor Ruth continued. "There is something else. Turn on Channel 6. Elijah opened a local news stream on his phone. The screen showed the front of the Cedar Falls Sheriff's Office. Carter stood at a podium with the county flag behind him. His uniform was clean, his voice steady, his face arranged for sympathy. Maya's stomach tightened. Carter spoke to reporters. "This morning, deputies attempted to resolve a sensitive matter involving county evidence. Miss Maya Williams was given every opportunity to cooperate. Unfortunately, the situation escalated when 2 unidentified men with military training entered Reed's Diner and attempted to intimidate law enforcement." Isaiah's hand closed around the steering wheel. Elijah kept recording the broadcast from another device. A reporter asked, "Deputy Voss, is Miss Williams under arrest?" "Not at this time," Carter said. "But she is under active investigation for evidence tampering and obstruction. We are also reviewing whether outside individuals are influencing her actions," Maya said. "He's doing exactly what I told you." The report cut to a short clip outside Reed's Diner. Tommy Ellis stood near the back door, shoulders stiff, eyes on the ground. A reporter held a microphone close to him. "Tommy, did you see Miss Williams with a suspicious envelope?" Tommy nodded once. "Yes, ma'am. She had an envelope." She looked nervous. Maya looked away. The reporter asked, "Did Deputy Voss act aggressively?" Tommy swallowed. "I don't know. I was near the kitchen. I just saw Miss Maya with the envelope. There was a blue sugar packet on the counter, and I remember thinking it was strange. I mean, the blue sugar packet. It was right there." Elias sat up. The reporter frowned. "The sugar packet?" Tommy blinked fast. "Yes, ma'am. The blue sugar packet. I don't know why I noticed it." The clip ended. Isaiah turned toward Elijah. "That was on purpose." Elijah nodded. He said it twice. Pastor Ruth's voice came through the speaker. "What does it mean?" Elijah held up the packet from the archive. "It means Tommy is still talking to us." Maya's voice was quiet. Or Carter made him say it. "No," Elijah said. "Carter doesn't know what it means. Tommy does." Isaiah checked the time. "We have less than 4 hours until 6. Elijah opened a map of Reed's Diner on his phone. If the main camera footage gets erased, the backup may still be inside. Tommy said 2 cameras. The blue sugar packet is probably a marker for the backup key. Maya looked at him. "You know where?" "I saw the counter. Blue sugar packets were beside the register. If there's a key, It's probably under the holder, or taped behind it. Isaiah looked toward Main Street. Carter will expect us to go back. Good, Elijah said. Then we don't all go. Maya shook her head. No, I'm not sending you into that diner while Carter is waiting. Isaiah turned in his seat. We are not going to fight him. You won't need to. He'll make the fight legal before you know you're in it. Elijah said. Then we send someone Carter won't expect. Maya stared at him. Tommy? No, Martha. Pastor Ruth answered from the phone. Martha Reed is scared, but she is not lost. I can talk to her, Maya said. Ruth, don't push her. I won't push. I'll ask her whether she wants her father's diner remembered as the place truth got erased. Maya rubbed her forehead. That's pushing. That is pastoring. Isaiah's phone buzzed with another call. The name showed Grace Holloway. He answered and kept it on speaker. Grace's voice was clear. I have 10 minutes before I lose signal on the highway. Tell me what you have. Elijah summarized the archive files. The missing ledger page, the blue sugar packet, Tommy's statement, and Carter's news conference. Grace did not interrupt. When he finished, she said, Do not confront Carter again without recording. Do not enter county property again without documenting the time. Do not let Maya sign anything. And get me that diner video. Maya spoke. Can the video stop Bellamy? No, Grace said. It can stop Carter's first lie. Bellamy is the larger problem. Isaiah asked, How do we touch Bellamy? You prove he is not just ruling on the case. You prove he built it. Elijah looked at the documents. His signature is on old land transfers. Old corruption helps, Grace said. Current obstruction wins. I need something from today. A call, an order, a threat, a witness saying Bellamy directed this. Maya looked at the sealed letter in Elijah's lap. Grace continued. Pastor Ruth told me about the house. If Bellamy seals it at 6, he controls what comes out of it. You need anything important removed before then. Maya's voice tightened. There are things in that house I can't replace. Then prioritize. Grace said. Evidence, first. Medicine, second. Personal items, third. Isaiah looked at Maya. We go to your house. Elijah shook his head. If we go now, Carter follows. If he follows, he sees what she takes. Maya said. There's another problem. If the courthouse closes at 5, Bellamy can say any remaining archive files are inaccessible until after the destruction order, Grace said. Then we divide tasks. One of you gets the diner video. One gets Maya's house ready. Nobody goes alone. Pastor Ruth coordinates community witnesses. I want older church members outside Maya's house before 6. Cameras visible. No shouting. No confrontation. Just witnesses. Pastor Ruth said. I can do that. Grace's voice hardened. Good. Carter's power depends on empty rooms. Don't give him one. A police cruiser passed the pharmacy lot without slowing. Everyone went silent until it turned the corner. Elijah put the phone away. We need Martha. Maya looked at the news stream still paused on Tommy's face. He looked terrified. Isaiah said, Fear doesn't always mean betrayal. Maya looked at the blue sugar packet in Elijah's hand. No. Sometimes fear is how courage hides long enough to work. Pastor Ruth said, I'm going to Reed's diner. Maya answered quickly, Be careful, child. I have buried men meaner than Carter Voss and prayed over women stronger than this county. I'll be careful, but I won't be quiet. The call ended. Isaiah started the engine. Maya looked from one son to the other. If you go back to Reed's, he may be waiting. Elijah checked his phone and opened the diner footage he had recorded earlier. Then we won't give him what he expects. Isaiah pulled out of the lot. Where first? Maya asked. Elijah held the blue sugar packet between two fingers. Black Grace. We let Pastor Ruth move Martha. Then we get the backup footage before Carter realizes Tommy gave us the key. Maya looked at the road ahead. The day had begun with a false charge. Now every hour had a task, and every task had a trap. By 5, they needed the archive trail secured. By 6, Maya's house would be sealed. By 8, Bellamy wanted Cedar Mill erased. And somewhere inside Reed's diner, A frightened young man had left them a small blue warning that the truth still had one more camera watching. Pastor Ruth reached Reed's diner before Carter did. She parked in the side lot, adjusted her hat in the rearview mirror, and walked through the front door with her purse tucked under one arm. The lunch crowd had thinned. 2 tables were occupied. Martha Reed stood behind the counter with a towel in her hand, wiping the same clean spot. When she saw Pastor Ruth, her face changed. "Ruth, I can't do this right now." Pastor Ruth stopped at the counter. "You can, Martha. You just don't want to do it scared." Martha glanced toward the front window. "Carter was already here once. If he comes back and finds you talking to me, I'm finished. You were finished the moment he made your diner part of his lie." Martha set the towel down. "That is not fair." "No," Pastor Ruth said. "What happened to Maya this morning was not fair. What Carter is asking you to do now is not fair. I am not here to make this comfortable." From the kitchen doorway, Tommy Ellis appeared. He froze when he saw Pastor Ruth. She looked at him. "Tommy, ma'am, you did what you had to do on that news camera?" Tommy's eyes moved to Martha. Martha looked at him sharply. "What does that mean?" Tommy stepped closer and lowered his voice. "Deputy Voss thinks I'm helping him." Martha gripped the edge of the counter. "Tommy, what did you do?" "I didn't give him the real thing." Pastor Ruth nodded once. "The blue sugar packet." Tommy swallowed. "There's a backup drive. Mr. Reed had it installed years ago after the register got robbed. Main cameras feed to the office computer. Backup clips go to a small unit under the counter. The key is taped under the blue sugar holder." Martha stared at him. "You knew that? Your husband showed me when the system froze last winter." Martha closed her eyes. "Lord," Pastor Ruth said, "we need the footage." Martha shook her head. "If I give it to you, Carter will say I tampered with evidence." Tommy said, "If we don't give it to them, he'll erase it." A car slowed outside. All 3 looked toward the window. It passed. Martha exhaled, but her hands still shook. "I am not brave like Maya." Pastor Ruth stepped closer. "Bravery is not a personality, Martha. It is a decision you make while your hands shake." Martha looked toward the wall behind the counter. A framed photograph hung there. Her father stood in front of Reed's diner on opening day, one hand on the door, proud and young. "Daddy used to say this place was for everybody," she said. "Then let it be true today," Pastor Ruth answered. Martha reached beneath the blue sugar holder and pulled free a small key. Tommy led them to the back office. The room was cramped, with a desk, a filing cabinet, and an old monitor connected to the camera system. Martha unlocked the small metal box under the counter beside the office wall. Inside was a backup drive. Tommy took it carefully. "It records in short segments. I copied the main clip before Carter came back the first time, but this has the automatic backup." Pastor Ruth held out her hand. "Give it to me." Before Tommy could move, the diner door opened. Carter Voss walked in. Martha stepped out of the office first, forcing her face to settle. Carter looked around. "Slow lunch." Martha picked up the towel again. "People have work." His eyes moved past her. "Pastor Coleman, didn't expect to see you here." Pastor Ruth walked out with her purse closed. "I eat here. You didn't order anything." "I have not decided what I want." Carter smiled without warmth. "I think you know exactly what you want." Tommy stayed behind the office doorway, the backup drive in his hand. Elijah's earlier warning echoed in his head. "Don't blow your cover unless you have to." Carter stepped toward the counter. "Martha, I need your camera system." Martha's throat moved. "You said this morning the cameras shouldn't become a problem. They have become one." Pastor Ruth looked at him. "Do you have a warrant?" Carter turned. "This is county business." "That is not a warrant." Carter's face tightened. "You church people love making simple things difficult." Pastor Ruth held his stare. "No. We love asking why powerful men need everyone else to stay quiet." Carter leaned toward Martha. "Get the office key." Martha did not move. "Martha." She placed both hands on the counter. "I need to call my attorney before I release any equipment." Carter's eyes narrowed. "Since when do you have an attorney?" "Since I remembered I am allowed to call one." Tommy slipped out through the kitchen door. Carter caught the movement in the corner of his eye. "Tommy." The young man stopped just outside the kitchen, empty-handed now. The drive was tucked inside a wrapped stack of clean aprons he had placed by the back prep table. "Yes, sir. Come here." Tommy walked out slowly. Carter studied his face. "You and I had an understanding." Tommy nodded. "Yes, sir." "Then why does everyone look nervous?" Tommy looked at Martha, then at Pastor Ruth. "Because you came in." For 1 second, no one spoke. Carter stepped closer. "Careful." Tommy lowered his eyes again. "Yes, sir." Pastor Ruth reached into her purse and pressed a button on her phone without looking down. The call to Elijah connected silently. At Black Grace Baptist Church, Elijah saw Pastor Ruth's name appear. He answered without speaking and put the phone on speaker. Isaiah, Maya, and Grace Holloway, now patched in from the highway, listened. Carter's voice came through. "Martha, if that footage leaves this diner, I can make your life hard before sundown. Health Department, Tax Office, Liquor License Review, Fire Code. You know how this works." Grace's voice came low from Isaiah's phone. "Keep him talking." Back at the diner, Pastor Ruth said, "That sounds like a threat, Deputy. That sounds like advice." Advice does not usually come with 4 government offices attached. Carter turned on her. "You want to protect Maya Williams? Fine. But when Bellamy signs the next order, don't cry about church records, donation accounts, or building permits." Pastor Ruth did not move. "Thank you." "For what?" "For saying Judge Bellamy's name." Carter realized too late. His eyes dropped to her purse. Pastor Ruth smiled. "You should know, Deputy. Old women learned how to use phones too." Carter lunged 1 step forward, then stopped himself. He looked toward the customers, then toward Martha, then toward Tommy. He knew the room was no longer safe for him. "This town has a short memory," he said. Pastor Ruth answered. "Not today." Carter pointed at Tommy. "Sheriff's office. 1 hour. We're going to fix your statement." Tommy nodded, as if afraid. "Yes, sir." Carter left the diner. The moment his car pulled away, Martha locked the front door and flipped the sign to closed. Tommy ran to the kitchen, grabbed the aprons, and pulled out the backup drive. Pastor Ruth took it. "Good boy." Tommy shook his head. "I'm not good. I'm scared." Martha touched his shoulder. "So am I." Pastor Ruth held up her phone. "Elijah, did you hear?" Elijah's voice came through. Every word. Grace spoke next. "That recording gives us current intimidation, and Bellamy's name tied to it. Get the drive to Black Grace. Do not text photos. Do not email files from the diner network." Pastor Ruth slipped the drive into her purse. Martha unlocked the door for her. "Tell Maya I'm sorry." Pastor Ruth looked back. "Tell her yourself when it counts." At the church, Maya sat with the archive papers spread across a folding table. Isaiah stood near the window. Elijah ended the call and looked at her. "Martha has the footage," he said. "And Carter just tied Bellamy to the pressure campaign on an open line." Maya looked down at the sealed letter from the archive. Isaiah noticed. "You still don't want us to open it?" "Not yet," she said. "We need proof before pain." Elijah checked the time. 2:48 p.m. Grace's voice came from the phone. "Then listen carefully. You have a diner video, archive records, and a live threat connected to Bellamy. That is enough to slow Carter, not stop him. The missing ledger page still matters." Maya looked toward the church doors. Outside, Pastor Ruth's car turned into the lot. Maya placed both hands flat on the table. "Then we keep moving." Isaiah looked at the documents. "What comes next?" Maya answered without hesitation. "My house. If Carter seals it at 6, there is one more thing he must not find." Pastor Ruth entered the church basement with the backup drive sealed inside a small envelope from Martha Reed's office. Elijah met her halfway. "Is that it?" Pastor Ruth handed it over. Martha gave it willingly. "Remember that when this town starts judging who was brave and when." Maya looked toward the stairs behind Pastor Ruth. "Where is Martha?" "At the diner. Closing early. She said if Carter wants to punish her, he can find the door locked." Isaiah gave a short nod. "Good." Elijah plugged the drive into his laptop. The screen lit up on the folding table between stacks of old archive papers, church bulletins, coffee cups, and Maya's sealed letter. Grace Holloway's voice came through Isaiah's phone from the highway. "Do not alter the file," Grace said. Open only a copy if you can. I'm making a duplicate now, Elijah said. Maya watched the progress bar move. Her hand stayed folded in her lap, but her thumb kept pressing against her palm. Pastor Ruth noticed. You need water? I need time. We all do. The video opened. There was Reed's Diner from the corner above the register. Carter stood beside Maya's booth. His body blocked part of the table, but the sound was clear. His first words came through the church basement speaker. Maya Williams, you're suspected of stealing county evidence. A girl in a wheelchair like you should know her place. Isaiah turned away from the screen. Elijah did not. He watched Carter reach for Maya's chair. He watched his own entrance with Isaiah. He watched the phone rise in his hand, and Carter step back. Grace's voice came tight through the speaker. That is enough to challenge the arrest threat and the forced statement, Maya said, but not enough to stop 6 o'clock. No, Grace answered. Bellamy's order still stands unless we can show it was issued in bad faith. The diner video helps. Carter's threat to Martha helps. The archive documents help. But I need the thing in your house. Isaiah looked at Maya. What thing? Maya did not answer immediately. Pastor Ruth lowered herself into a chair. Maya. Maya looked down at the sealed letter from the archive, then at the door leading upstairs to the sanctuary. There is a metal recipe box in my kitchen cabinet. Blue lid. Inside are index cards, grocery lists, and old church receipts. Under all that is a cassette tape. Elijah's fingers stopped on the keyboard. Another tape? The first statement I ever made after Pine Creek. Isaiah stepped closer. Why wasn't it in the archive? Because I didn't trust one hiding place. Grace spoke quickly. Is it original? Yes. What's on it? My voice. Names, dates. What your mother told me before she died. What your father found at Cedar Mill. What I saw Raymond Voss do after the county closed Pine Creek. The room went still. Isaiah's voice stayed controlled. You saw Raymond Voss? I saw enough to know the official report was false. Elijah looked at her. And you kept that in a recipe box? Maya's eyes hardened. People search lockboxes. They search file cabinets. They don't search cornbread recipes from a woman they think is harmless. Pastor Ruth nodded. That was smart. That was scared, Maya said. Smart came later. Grace cut in. Listen to me. If that tape exists, Carter cannot get it. You need to retrieve it before 6. You also need medicine, identification, and anything Bellamy can twist into evidence if he finds it first. Isaiah checked the time. 3:12. Elijah closed the laptop. We have under 3 hours. Maya turned her chair toward the basement exit. Then, take me home. Isaiah said, Carter may be watching it. He is watching it, Maya said. That does not change what is inside. Pastor Ruth stood. I will bring witnesses. Maya shook her head. No crowd. Not yet. Grace disagreed. You need witnesses. Older church members. Calm people. Phones visible. Nobody blocks officers. Nobody shouts. They stand on the sidewalk and record. Carter wants empty rooms. Do not give him one. Pastor Ruth reached for her phone. I'll call Deacon Miles, Sister Jean, Mr. Abernathy, and the Veterans Prayer Group. Isaiah looked at her. Veterans? Pastor Ruth gave him a dry look. Baby, half the men who sing off-key in this church wore a uniform before your daddy knew your mama. Elijah almost smiled. Maya did not. They left the basement through the side entrance. Isaiah drove Maya's vehicle this time, with Elijah in the back seat beside the laptop bag. Pastor Ruth followed in her sedan. Grace stayed on speaker. Maya's house sat behind Black Grace Baptist Church, small and plain, with a narrow ramp leading to the porch. A sheriff's cruiser was parked across the street. Not Carter's. Another deputy sat inside, pretending to read something on his phone. Isaiah parked in the driveway. The deputy looked up. Grace's voice came through the speaker. Record from the moment you step out. Elijah lifted his phone. Already live to local storage and cloud backup. Maya glanced at him. You always this prepared? You raised us to check the locks twice. I raised you to say grace before meals. We learned both. Isaiah unfolded her wheelchair and helped her into it. He did not touch the handles until she nodded. The deputy got out of his cruiser. You can't enter the property, he called. County seal pending. Grace spoke from the phone. Ask him if the seal has been executed. Elijah raised his voice. Has the property been legally sealed yet? The deputy stopped. It's scheduled. At 6, Elijah said. It is now 3:21. Miss Williams is entering her own residence before execution of the order. The deputy looked uncertain. I have instructions. Isaiah turned toward him. Then call whoever gave them. We'll wait 10 seconds. The deputy reached for his radio but did not speak. Maya rolled up the ramp. I'm going into my house. The deputy did not stop her. Inside, Maya moved straight to the kitchen. The house was quiet. 2 chipped mugs sat on the shelf above the sink. Isaiah saw them and looked away. Elijah noticed, but kept recording. Maya pointed to the upper cabinet. Blue lid. Isaiah opened it and took down the metal recipe box. He placed it on the table. Maya opened the lid. The first cards were ordinary. Cornbread, peach cobbler, Sunday chicken. Behind them were receipts, old stamps, and folded church programs. At the bottom sat a cassette tape in a cracked plastic case. Elijah picked it up carefully. Label? Maya read it softly. M.W. statement. Do not play alone. Isaiah looked at her. Why that warning? Because the truth is easier to carry when somebody is sitting beside you. Grace said. Bag it. Do not play it there. Elijah slid it into an evidence envelope from Grace's emergency kit. Maya turned toward the hallway. My medicine is in the bathroom cabinet. My IDs are in the bedroom drawer. There is a photo album in the closet. Grace said, medicine and ID first. Isaiah went to the bathroom. Elijah moved to the bedroom. Maya stayed in the kitchen with Pastor Ruth, who had just entered through the back door. Pastor Ruth looked around the room. You built a life here. Maya kept her voice low. I built a hiding place and called it a life. No, Pastor Ruth said. You built a home. Don't let Carter rename what love made. Outside, car doors closed. Elijah came back with a folder, an old laptop, and a small photo album. 2 county vehicles just pulled up. Isaiah returned with Maya's medication bag. Carter? Elijah checked the window. Yes. Maya reached for the recipe box. Pastor Ruth put a hand on her shoulder. Leave the box. No. Maya, take the tape. Leave the camouflage. Carter's voice sounded from the porch. Maya Williams. Open the door. Isaiah moved toward the front room. Grace's voice sharpened through the phone. Do not block him. Do not touch him. Record everything. Maya rolled herself into the hall. Let him knock. Carter knocked again. Harder. This property is under county authority. Elijah whispered. It's not 6. Maya looked at the clock on the wall. 3:34. She lifted her chin. Then, he is early, because he is afraid. Isaiah opened the door but kept one hand visible at his side. Carter stood on the porch with 2 county workers behind him and a paper in his hand. He looked past Isaiah at Maya. Change of schedule, Carter said. Judge Bellamy moved the seal order up. Grace's voice came from the phone before anyone else spoke. Deputy Voss, this is Attorney Grace Holloway. Send me the amended order now. Carter's face changed. Maya watched him hear the name. For the first time since morning, Carter Voss hesitated. Carter shifted his weight on the porch and looked toward the phone in Elijah's hand. Attorney Holloway, he said. You're not admitted in this county yet. Grace's voice stayed calm. I do not need county admission to ask why a deputy is executing an amended order he has not produced. Carter lifted the paper slightly. I have authority. Then show it. Isaiah stood inside the doorway with both hands visible. Elijah recorded from the hall. Pastor Ruth stood beside Maya, silent but steady. Carter looked past them into the house. Miss Williams is under investigation for evidence tampering. Judge Bellamy determined there is immediate risk of removal or destruction of county material. Grace answered. That sounds like language from a motion. It does not sound like a signed order. One of the county workers behind Carter glanced down at his clipboard. Maya saw it. Carter, she said. Did Bellamy sign that paper? Or did he tell you he would? Carter's eyes snapped to her. You don't get to question process. I do when process is standing on my porch before 6 o'clock. Grace said. Deputy Voss. Read the judge's signature line and time of entry into the record. Carter did not move. Elijah stepped closer with the phone. For the record, Deputy Voss has not provided the amended order. Carter pointed at him. Keep pushing. Isaiah's voice cut in low. Nobody is pushing. You're being recorded. That is all. From the sidewalk, a car door closed. Then another. Pastor Ruth looked through the front window. That'll be Deacon Miles. Carter turned. An older black man in a veteran's cap stood at the edge of the yard with his phone raised. Beside him, Sister Jean from the church lifted her own phone. Mr. Abernathy leaned on a cane near the curb, his face set and serious. None of them stepped onto the property. None of them shouted. They simply watched. Carter's jaw tightened. Maya rolled forward until she was just behind Isaiah. This is my home. You will not enter it before the lawful hour, unless you show a lawful order. Carter looked at the county workers. Stand by, one of them said quietly. Deputy, if the order isn't entered yet, we can't place the seal. Carter turned on him. I said stand by. Grace spoke again. I heard that. Thank you. The worker's face went pale. Carter lowered the paper. Fine. 6 o'clock. But don't think this changes anything. It changes the record, Grace said. Carter stepped closer to the doorway. Isaiah did not move. Carter looked at Maya. You still think paperwork will save you? Maya answered. No. I think your paperwork will bury you if you keep using it wrong. He smiled once, hard and brief. You have until 6. You said that already, and you still don't understand it. I understand enough. Carter looked around the room again. His eyes landed on the table behind Maya, then on the medication bag in Isaiah's hand, then on the folder Elijah had tucked under one arm. What did you remove from the house? My medicine, Maya said. Anything else? My identification. And, Grace said, Deputy, unless you have executed a search order, Miss Williams is not required to inventory personal property to you from inside her own home. Carter's nostrils flared. Pastor Ruth tilted her head. You want to search, Carter? Bring a real paper. He looked at her. You enjoy this? No, Pastor Ruth said. I have spent too many years watching people like you call fear order. Carter stepped back. I'll see you at 6. He turned and walked down the ramp. The county workers followed. One avoided looking at Maya. Outside, the church members kept their phones raised until Carter's vehicle pulled away. Only when the street cleared did Isaiah close the door. Elijah stopped recording but did not lower the phone right away. 3:39. Grace exhaled through the speaker. You bought time. Not much. Maya rolled back into the kitchen. We got the tape. Good, Grace said. Now get out of that house. Do not stay there waiting for 6. Isaiah placed the medication bag on the table. Where do we go? Black Grace, Pastor Ruth said. Maya shook her head. If we bring everything to the church, Carter pressures the church. He already threatened the church, Pastor Ruth said. Might as well make him work for it in front of witnesses. Elijah opened the old laptop he had taken from Maya's bedroom. This may have files. Maya looked at it. It hasn't connected to the internet in years. Good. That makes it safer, Grace said. Bring it. Bring the tape. Bring the archive copies. Leave anything emotional unless you can carry it without slowing down. Maya looked toward the hallway. Isaiah followed her gaze. The photo album? She did not answer. He went to the closet and returned with the small album Elijah had found. Its cover was worn at the corners. He placed it in her lap. Maya touched it with both hands. Thank you. Elijah moved to the front window. Another cruiser passed. Grace said, Move now. They packed quickly. Medication, identification, the cassette tape, archive files, the sealed letter, the old laptop, the photo album. Isaiah carried most of it in a plain duffel bag. Elijah kept the evidence envelopes separate in his backpack. Maya looked once around the kitchen. Pastor Ruth stood beside her. You ready? No. Then come anyway. Maya gave a small nod. Outside, Deacon Miles opened the rear door of Pastor Ruth's sedan. We'll follow you to the church. Maya looked at the small group. You all shouldn't be here. Sister Jean said, Baby, I was baptized in a river with snakes in it. I am not scared of Carter Voss. Mr. Abernathy grunted. I am scared. I just came anyway. For the first time that day, Maya almost smiled. Isaiah helped her into the vehicle. Elijah folded the chair. Pastor Ruth took the driver's seat this time, while Isaiah and Elijah followed in their own vehicle with the evidence. As they pulled away, Maya watched her house through the side window. The ramp, the porch, the curtains, the small flower pot Pastor Ruth had given her last Easter. Everything stayed where it was. For now, at Black Grace Baptist Church, Grace Holloway had not yet arrived, but her voice stayed with them through the phone. The basement became a working room. Elijah set up the laptop and copied the diner footage. Isaiah laid the archived documents in order. Pastor Ruth placed the cassette tape in the center of the table. Maya sat before it. Isaiah pulled out a chair beside her. You said not to play it alone. I did. Then don't. Elijah connected a small cassette player Pastor Ruth found in the church office. The machine was old. The buttons clicked hard. Nobody spoke while he tested the batteries. Grace said, Before you play it, understand this. The tape may help us prove bad faith, but if it names people without supporting documents, Bellamy will attack it as old memory, Maya said. Then he can attack my memory while listening to his own name. Pastor Ruth looked at her. Maya, I'm tired of whispering around men who never whispered when they hurt people. Elijah pressed play. Static filled the basement. Then a younger version of Maya's voice came through. My name is Maya Williams. I am making this statement because if something happens to me, someone needs to know what Nathan and Lila Brooks told me before Pine Creek. Isaiah went still. Elijah stared at the tape player. The younger Maya continued, nervous but clear. Nathan said Cedar Mill was being used to hide property records and payment routes. Lila said Judge Warren Bellamy was helping move seized land through shell companies. She said Sheriff Raymond Voss knew. She said if they made it to the state hearing, the whole county would have to answer. The tape crackled. Maya's present-day hands tightened on the photo album. The younger voice said, The night before they died, Lila gave me a copy of one ledger page and told me not to keep it at the house. I moved it. I will not say where on this tape. Elijah paused the recording. Isaiah turned to Maya. You had the ledger page? Maya looked at the tape player. I had it. Do you still? She did not answer quickly enough. Grace's voice came sharp through the phone. Maya, where is the original ledger page? Maya closed her eyes. I hid it where no county clerk would file it. No deputy would search it. And no judge would think to look. Elijah leaned forward. Where? Before Maya could answer, Pastor Ruth's phone buzzed. She read the screen, and her face changed. It's Martha. She put it on speaker. Martha's voice shook. Ruth, Carter just came back to the diner. He took Tommy. Elijah stood. What do you mean took him? He said Tommy needed to correct his statement at the sheriff's office. Tommy went with him. He looked at me before he left, and he said, Tell them. The blue packet wasn't the only one. I don't know what that means. Elijah looked down at the blue sugar packet on the table. Isaiah said, It means Tommy is still working. Grace cut in. Or Carter is about to break his story before we can use it. Maya looked at the clock on the basement wall. 4:10. Carter still had less than 2 hours before the house seal. Less than 4 before Bellamy's destruction order. And now Tommy was inside the sheriff's office. Maya pushed the cassette tape toward Elijah. Copy that. Now. Isaiah looked at her. And Tommy? Maya's face hardened. We don't leave frightened people alone with men who trade in fear. Isaiah was already reaching for his jacket. Grace's voice came through the phone. Do not rush the sheriff's office. Isaiah stopped, but only because Maya looked at him. Grace continued. That is what Carter wants. He wants 2 military men walking into his building, angry, on camera, with his deputies ready to call it intimidation. Elijah kept copying the cassette tape to his laptop. Tommy may be recording. Maya turned toward him. You think that is what he meant? The blue packet wasn't the only one, Elijah said. He may have another signal, or another device. Pastor Ruth stood near the basement stairs with her phone in her hand. Martha said he went willingly. Isaiah's voice stayed low. Willingly under pressure is not willingly, Grace said. Correct. But Tommy is not alone if we make the room visible. Pastor Ruth, can you get people to the sidewalk outside the sheriff's office? I can. No confrontation. Phones out. Quiet. If Carter sees a crowd, he changes behavior. If he changes behavior, Tommy may lose his opening. Maya looked at the tape player. Then we do both. We copy the tape and we watch the sheriff's office. Elijah removed the fresh digital file and saved it twice. Tape copied. Diner footage copied. Archive photos backed up. Grace said, "Send nothing over regular email. I'll give you a secure link when I'm closer." Isaiah checked the clock. 4:17. Maya rolled toward the table and picked up the sealed letter from Lila Brooks. Her hands stayed on it for 1 second before she put it into Elijah's evidence folder. Isaiah saw the movement. "You still won't open it. Not before Tommy is safe." At the sheriff's office, Tommy Ellis sat in a small interview room with his hands folded in front of him. Carter stood by the door. A second deputy sat at the table with a blank statement form. The room had a camera in the corner. Carter had pointed to it when they walked in. "Everything official," Carter had said. Tommy nodded because nodding was safer than speaking. Carter placed a bottle of water in front of him. "You did good on the news." Tommy looked at the bottle. "Thank you, sir." But then Pastor Coleman came to the diner. "Yes, sir." And Martha got nervous. "She's been nervous all day." Carter sat across from him. "That is because people like Maya Williams bring trouble to working people. Martha has a business. You have a future. Maya has old anger and a story nobody asked for." Tommy kept his eyes down. "I understand." "No, you don't. Not yet." Carter slid the blank statement across the table. "You need to correct what you said earlier. Be clearer. Maya showed you the envelope. Maya said she had proof against the county. Maya seemed angry. The two men came in aggressive. You felt unsafe." Tommy looked at the page. "I didn't say all that. You are saying it now." The second deputy shifted in his chair. He would not look at Tommy. Tommy touched the edge of his shirt pocket. Inside, beneath a folded napkin, was the small recorder he had taken from the diner office. Carter had not searched him. Carter thought fear was enough. Tommy said, "Can I ask something?" Carter leaned back. "Ask. If Miss Maya didn't have anything important, why is Judge Bellamy trying to seal her house before 6? Carter's eyes narrowed. "Who told you that?" "I heard people talking. You hear too much." "I just mean, if it's just an old envelope, why does everyone care?" Carter looked toward the room camera, then stood and walked to it. He reached up and pressed the power button. Tommy's heart started beating harder. The red light went dark. Carter returned to the table. Because people like Maya don't know when to stop. They get one little document, one old rumor, one dead couple's name, and suddenly they think they can put good families on trial. Tommy kept his voice small. "The Brooks family?" Carter stared at him. Tommy lowered his eyes again. "I heard that name today." Carter smiled slightly. "Forget it." "Yes, sir." "You want the truth?" Maya Williams has been feeding those boys poison since they were small. Now they come back in uniforms, thinking that makes them important. Tommy's fingers pressed against his pocket. Carter tapped the statement form. "Write what I told you." Tommy picked up the pen. At Black Grace Baptist Church, Elijah's phone vibrated with a notification from an unknown device. He opened it. A live audio file had started uploading in short bursts. Elijah stood. "Tommy's recorder is transmitting." Isaiah moved beside him. "Can you hear it?" Elijah connected the phone to the basement speaker. Carter's voice came through, low but clear. "Maya Williams has been feeding those boys poison since they were small. Now they come back in uniforms, thinking that makes them important." Maya closed her eyes. Grace spoke from the phone. "Record this on a second device." "Already doing it," Elijah said. Pastor Ruth put a hand over her mouth, then lowered it. "That boy is sitting in the room with him." Isaiah's face hardened. And Carter turned off the official camera. Grace said, "That matters. If we can show the room." Camera went dark, and Tommy's recorder continued. "Carter's own procedure hurts him." The audio crackled. Tommy's voice came faintly. "What should I write, Deputy?" Carter answered. "Write that Maya said she had hidden Cedar Mill papers. Write that the two men threatened me. Write that you feared for your safety. But I didn't. You want to keep your job?" "Yes, sir." "You want your grandmother left alone?" Silence filled the basement. Maya gripped the armrests of her wheelchair. Isaiah took one step toward the stairs. No. Grace said his name once. Isaiah. He stopped. Maya did not look at him. We fight smart. Not loud. On the audio, Tommy spoke again. His voice shook, but he kept going. Is Judge Bellamy going to help if Miss Maya gets a lawyer? Carter laughed once. Bellamy is the reason she needs one. He'll bury every motion she files until the Cedar Mill records are gone. Grace whispered. There, Carter continued. At 8, those files are dead. By midnight, anything left at the mill gets moved. After that, Maya has nothing but church gossip and 2 angry soldiers. Elijah looked at Isaiah. Midnight confirmed. Maya said. And 8. Grace's voice sharpened. This is current obstruction. Keep recording. At the sheriff's office, Carter pushed the paper closer. Right. Tommy started writing. But not the words Carter wanted. He wrote slowly, keeping his hand steady enough to be legible. I am being told what to say. Carter looked toward the hallway, distracted by a knock at the door. The second deputy stood and opened it. A clerk whispered, There are people outside. Carter turned. What people? Church people. Veterans. Some with phones. Carter looked back at Tommy. Stay here. He stepped into the hallway. Tommy moved fast. He tore the top sheet from the pad, folded it once, and slipped it under the water bottle label. Then he wrote a second statement on the next page, this time using Carter's words, but adding one phrase at the bottom. Blue packet. Wasn't the only one. Carter came back in. Problem? Tommy asked. Carter grabbed the paper and scanned it. He saw the version he expected. He did not check the water bottle. Good, Carter said. See? That wasn't hard. No, sir. Carter pointed toward the door. You stay available. If anyone asks, you came here voluntarily. Tommy nodded. Yes, sir. Outside the sheriff's office, Pastor Ruth stood on the sidewalk beside Deacon Miles, Sister Jean, Mr. Abernathy, and several church members. No one shouted. No one blocked the door. Every phone stayed visible. Carter walked out and forced a smile. Pastor Coleman, he said. You bringing church service to the sheriff's office now? Pastor Ruth answered, No, deputy. Just witnesses. Tommy came out behind him with the water bottle in one hand. Elijah, who had arrived with Isaiah but stayed across the street, saw it immediately. Tommy did not look at them. He walked to the curb, set the bottle beside a newspaper box, and kept moving toward Martha Reed's old pickup, which had just pulled up at the corner. Isaiah watched Carter. Elijah crossed only when Carter turned to argue with Pastor Ruth. He picked up the bottle and walked back without looking down. Inside their vehicle, Elijah peeled back the label and found the folded note. Isaiah read it aloud. I am being told what to say. Maya sat in the back seat with the evidence bag in her lap. She looked through the windshield at Tommy climbing into Martha's truck. He is braver than he knows, she said. Grace's voice came from the phone. And Carter just gave us coercion, Bellamy's obstruction, the 8 o'clock destruction deadline, and the midnight transfer. That is enough to move. Isaiah looked at the clock on the dashboard. 4:46. Maya turned toward the church. Then we stop chasing Carter's lies, she said. We make him chase the one truth he still fears. They returned to Black Grace through the side entrance. Pastor Ruth sent the church members upstairs to the sanctuary with instructions to keep their phones charged and their voices low. Martha Reed brought Tommy in through the back door 5 minutes later. He looked pale, but he stood on his own and kept the water bottle note folded in his shirt pocket until Grace told him to place it in an evidence bag. Maya watched him from the end of the folding table. Tommy, she said. He looked at her once, then dropped his eyes. I'm sorry, Miss Maya. For what? For making you think I turned on you. Maya rolled closer. You were scared? Yes, ma'am. And you still found a way to tell the truth. His mouth trembled, but he nodded. Isaiah stood near the basement door. Carter let you walk out because he thinks he owns your statement. Tommy looked at him. He does. On paper. Elijah held up the recorder file on his phone. Not on audio. Grace Holloway's voice came through the speaker. She was closer now, still driving in from Atlanta, but her signal was stronger. Everybody listen. We have 4 pieces from today. Diner video, Carter threatening Martha, Tommy's recording from the sheriff's office, and the note showing coercion. That helps us prove the current frame-up. It does not yet prove Pine Creek. Isaiah looked at Maya. The ledger page proves Pine Creek. Maya did not look away. Yes. Elijah leaned over the archive documents. The missing page is the only thing they still fear enough to move tonight. Pastor Ruth sat at the table and opened her Bible, not to read, but to hold it steady under one hand. Then we make them think we know where it is. Tommy looked up. The mill. Everyone turned to him. He swallowed. Carter said, "By midnight, anything left at the mill gets moved. If he thinks the page is still there, he'll go before 8. Grace said, "That is the bait." Maya's face tightened. "You want to send him to Cedar Mill?" "No," Grace said. "We want him to send himself." Isaiah crossed his arms. "What do you need from us?" "A rumor Carter trusts," Grace said. "Not from Maya. Not from either of you. From Tommy." Martha stepped forward. "No. He has done enough." Tommy shook his head. "If it comes from me, Carter might believe it." Maya said, "Tommy, you don't owe me this." "I know," he said. "That's why I can choose it." Pastor Ruth looked at him with quiet pride. "Courage and fear can sit in the same chair, baby." Elijah opened a blank note on his phone. "What does the message say?" Grace answered. "Simple. Tommy tells Carter he overheard us say the last page was hidden in the old Cedar Mill office safe. He says Maya moved it years ago, but the safe was never opened because she lost the combination." Isaiah said, "Would Carter believe Maya left it there?" Maya nodded slowly. "He might. Cedar Mill is the one place he thinks I would never want to return to." Elijah looked at her. "Because of your accident. Because of everything." Grace said, "The message must sound nervous, not clever." "Tommy, can you do that?" Tommy gave a weak laugh. "That's the easiest part." Martha gripped his shoulder. "You send it from my phone." "Not yours," Grace said. "No. Carter expects Tommy to be afraid. He expects him to text from his own phone. That is why he will trust it." Tommy pulled out his phone. His hands shook. "What exactly do I type?" Elijah dictated slowly. "Deputy Voss. I heard them talking at the church. They said Miss Maya hid the last Cedar Mill ledger page in the old office, safe at the mill. They said if they get it before 8, Judge Bellamy can't destroy the file." Grace said, "Add one more line. Say, I didn't know if I should tell you." Tommy typed it, then looked at Maya. She nodded once. He sent it. No one spoke. The basement clock read 5:23. Isaiah looked at the phone on the table. Now what? Now Carter decides whether fear is stronger than caution, Grace said. It took less than 2 minutes. Tommy's phone buzzed. He read the reply aloud. "Stay where you are. Do not tell anyone else. You did the right thing." Elijah leaned back. He took it. Grace said, "Good. Now we prepare." Maya looked toward the stairs. "Prepare how?" Grace answered. "Federal contacts are already reviewing what I sent. State police will not move on rumor. They need real-time proof of tampering, intimidation, or conspiracy. If Carter and Bellamy go to Cedar Mill before 8, we document every word," Isaiah said. "We can set cameras." Elijah nodded. "The old mill still has power in sections?" Maya answered. "Not regular power, but the security office had wiring. There was a separate line for the county storage rooms. You know the layout? I worked there," Maya said. "I know enough." Pastor Ruth looked at her. "You do not have to go." "Yes, I do." Isaiah turned sharply. "No." Maya met his eyes. "Carter is not afraid of a file. He is afraid of me saying what the file means." Elijah spoke carefully. "You can say it from the church." "No. If they see only you two near that mill, they make it about military intimidation again. If I am there with Grace on the line and witnesses ready, they have to face the woman they tried to erase." Grace said, "Maya is right strategically, but she does not go inside alone. Nobody does. We keep positions. We record. We do not confront unless necessary." Isaiah looked unhappy, but he nodded. Martha said, "What about the diner video?" Elijah held up a flash drive. "Copied. The tape?" Grace asked. "Copied twice," Elijah said. The archive files? Photographed and packed. The sealed letter? Maya touched the folder. Still sealed. Isaiah looked at her. If tonight goes wrong, we may never get a quiet time to open it. Maya's face softened, then steadied. Then we make sure tonight does not go wrong. Pastor Ruth stood. I'll keep people at the church. If Elijah sends a live feed, we can witness it here, Grace said. Exactly. Carter's power depends on private rooms. We turned Cedar Mill into a public room. Tommy's phone buzzed again. This time the message was from Carter. Be at the sheriff's office at 7. Do not be late. Tommy looked up. He wants me close, Elijah said. Because he thinks you belong to him now. Tommy's voice was small. What do I do? Grace answered. You go nowhere alone. Martha takes you home. You stay there until Pastor Ruth sends someone for you. If Carter asks, you say your grandmother got sick, and you had to help. Martha nodded. I'll take him. Tommy looked relieved and ashamed at the same time. Maya reached for his hand. You did enough for one day. He held her hand carefully. No, ma'am. I did what you taught people to do without knowing you were teaching. Maya could not answer. Elijah's laptop chimed. He turned it toward them. A courthouse scheduling notice had just appeared on the public docket. Emergency disposition of Cedar Mill obsolete records confirmed. Authorized at 8 p.m. by order of Judge Warren Bellamy. Isaiah read it once. He posted it. Grace's voice went cold. That means he wants a legal cover before they move. Maya looked at the clock. 5:31. Her house would be sealed in less than 30 minutes. The Cedar Mill records would be legally dead at 8. Carter believed the missing page was waiting inside the mill safe. Maya placed both hands on the table and pushed herself upright in her chair. Then, we stop waiting for them to close doors, she said. We open the one they are running toward. Grace Holloway arrived at Black Grace Baptist Church at 5:46. She came through the basement door with a leather briefcase in one hand, a phone in the other, and no time for greetings. Her dark suit was creased from the drive, but her eyes were clear and hard. Maya Williams? Maya raised one hand. That's me. Grace crossed the room and knelt enough to meet her eyes. I'm Grace Holloway. Pastor Ruth says you've been holding this town together with thread and prayer. Maya looked at the table covered in files. Today it feels more like tape and panic. That works too. Isaiah stepped forward. We have diner footage, archive records, Carter's threat at Reed's, Tommy's recording, and Maya's cassette statement. Grace nodded. I reviewed what Elijah sent through the secure link. It is strong enough to challenge Carter. It is not strong enough to stop Bellamy before 8. Elijah turned his laptop toward her. The docket notice is public now. Grace read it. Emergency disposition of obsolete Cedar Mill records. Authorized at 8 p.m. She looked up. He is creating a legal excuse to destroy whatever remains. Pastor Ruth came down the stairs. Church members are upstairs. Quiet. Phones charged. Good, Grace said. At 6, Carter seals Maya's house. We do not resist. We record. The house is no longer the battlefield. Maya looked toward the basement window. He will think he won that round. Grace closed her briefcase. Let him. We need him confident by the time he reaches Cedar Mill. Isaiah's phone buzzed. He checked it. Deacon. Miles. Says Carter just turned onto the church road. Elijah stood. How many cars? 2 sheriff's vehicles and 1 county van. Maya took a slow breath. He's going to seal the house. Grace looked at her. And maybe try to detain you. Isaiah's jaw tightened. On what charge? Whatever. Bellamy wrote down in the last 15 minutes. Maya said. Then we go outside before he comes in here. Grace nodded. Exactly. Public ground. Church witnesses. No shouting. No blocking. No touching officers. Isaiah looked at her. You keep saying that like we don't understand. I say it because Carter needs one image of you losing control. Maya looked at Isaiah. And he won't get it. Isaiah held her gaze, then nodded once. They went outside. The late afternoon air was heavy. Maya's house sat behind the church, already watched by county workers standing near the porch with tape, forms, and a clipboard. Carter stepped out of his cruiser holding a new document. Another deputy stood behind him. The church members gathered on the sidewalk. Deacon Miles, Sister Jean, Mr. Abernathy, and several older veterans stood in a straight, quiet line with phones visible. No one crossed onto Maya's property. Carter saw Grace and stopped. "Well," he said. Atlanta made good time. Grace stepped beside Maya. "Deputy Voss, provide the order." Carter handed her a copy. Grace read fast. Maya watched her face and knew before Grace spoke that Bellamy had found a way. Grace said, "This order authorizes the property seal at 6. It does not authorize a search of Miss Williams's person, her attorney's files, or church property." Carter smiled. "I'm not here for the church." He looked at Maya. "Maya Williams, you are being detained for obstruction of document disposition and refusal to comply with a county evidence order." Isaiah took one step forward. Maya raised her hand. "No," Grace said. "Deputy, on what basis?" Carter tapped the paper. "Judge Bellamy found probable cause that Miss Williams may be withholding the location of county evidence scheduled for legal disposition at 8 p.m. Grace's voice sharpened. "You are detaining her because she may know where something is?" "I am detaining her for questioning." "Then say that." "She is not under arrest?" "Not yet." Elijah recorded every word. "Time is 5:59 p.m. Deputy Carter Voss is detaining Maya Williams outside Black Grace Baptist Church under Judge Bellamy's order." Carter looked at him. "Still playing reporter?" Elijah answered. "Still. Making a record." The courthouse clock in the distance struck 6. One county worker placed the first seal across Maya's front door. Maya looked at the small house. She did not cry. She did not speak. Isaiah watched her, and his anger stayed locked behind his teeth. Carter moved toward Maya's wheelchair. "Let's go." Isaiah's voice came low. "Ask before you touch her chair." Carter paused. Cameras were on him from every direction. He forced a smile. "Miss Williams, will you come voluntarily?" Maya looked at Grace. Grace leaned close. "Go. Do not answer questions without me present. I'll follow." Maya nodded. "I'll come." Pastor Ruth moved to her side. "Child." Maya took her hand. "Keep the church watching." "We will." Carter stepped aside as another deputy pushed a transport ramp from the county van. Maya looked at the ramp, then at Carter. "My sons will help me." Carter started to object, then saw the phones. "Fine." Isaiah and Elijah helped Maya into the van with careful, controlled movements. Carter could not turn that into threat. He hated that. At the sheriff's office, Carter took Maya to the same interview room where Tommy had sat earlier. Grace arrived minutes behind them, but a deputy blocked her at the front desk. "Counsel has to wait until processing clears." Grace placed both hands on the counter. "There is no processing. She is detained for questioning, not arrested. You have exactly 30 seconds to bring me to my client before I call the state duty judge, and read your name first." The deputy looked toward the hallway. Carter entered the interview room alone. Maya sat at the table. Her wheelchair was positioned so the door stayed in front of her. She noticed the camera in the corner. The red light was on. Carter sat across from her. "You could have avoided this." Maya folded her hands. "You could have chosen honest work." He smiled. Still talking. Still listening. Carter placed a folder on the table. "Where's the ledger page?" Maya did not move. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do. Tommy heard you at the church. Old Cedar Mill office safe. That was your hiding place, wasn't it?" Maya kept her face blank. Inside, she understood. Tommy's bait had reached him. Carter believed it. She said, "If you think you know, why ask me?" "Because I want you to say it." "So you can write it down wrong?" Carter leaned back. "Judge Bellamy is done playing games. At 8, those records die legally. At midnight, whatever remains at Cedar Mill moves out of county storage. By morning, you have nothing." Maya glanced at the camera. "You say that like moving records after a court order is normal. It is normal when the county owns them. And when those records name your father." Carter's face changed. The door opened before he could answer. Grace walked in with a deputy behind her. "This interview is over until I am fully present," Grace said. Carter stood. She was not under formal questioning. Grace looked at Maya. "Did he ask questions?" Maya answered. "He asked where the ledger page is." Grace turned back to Carter. Then, it was formal enough. Carter gathered his folder. Fine. We'll continue at Cedar Mill. Grace stilled. Excuse me? On-site verification. Judge Bellamy's order permits it. Miss Williams claims not to know what evidence exists. We will let her identify county property before disposition, Grace said. You are moving a detained, disabled woman to an abandoned mill less than 2 hours before a destruction deadline? Carter smiled. I'm following the judge's order. Maya looked at Grace, then at Carter. He had taken the bait completely. Elijah and Isaiah waited outside the sheriff's office in their vehicle. Pastor Ruth was on speaker from the church. Tommy and Martha were safe at Martha's house. The evidence copies were already backed up. When Grace stepped outside, she spoke quietly but fast. He's taking Maya to Cedar Mill. Isaiah's hands closed slowly. Elijah checked the live stream kit in the back seat. Then we go ahead of them. Grace looked at both men. No confrontation, no heroics. We document. Isaiah stared at the sheriff's entrance as Carter's deputy prepared the van. We make a record, he said. Elijah started the engine. The clock on the dashboard read 6:38. At 8, Bellamy planned to erase Cedar Mill. Before then, Carter Voss was about to walk Maya straight into the place where the truth had been waiting for him. Isaiah reached Cedar Mill before the county van left the sheriff's office. He parked behind a closed auto parts warehouse across from the old service road. Elijah opened the rear door and pulled out a small bag with phones, battery packs, clip cameras, and a portable hotspot. Grace pulled in behind them 2 minutes later. She got out with her briefcase and looked toward the mill. Do not enter the main office until Maya arrives, she said. Elijah checked the battery pack. I need access to the old control room. Is that inside the building? Yes. Then you go only where you can exit fast, and you keep a live connection open. Isaiah looked at the road. Carter's not here yet. Grace checked her phone. State police are reviewing the file. My federal contact has the diner footage, Tommy's recording, Maya's tape, and the archive scans. They will not move on the old case alone. They need current conduct. Elijah lifted the bag. Then we give them current conduct. Grace caught his arm before he turned. You record. You do not create the conduct. Elijah nodded. Understood. Isaiah walked with him along the side fence. The front gate to Cedar Mill hung closed with a county chain, but Maya had told them about a maintenance door near the loading dock. Elijah found it, checked the frame, and opened it with a flat tool from his kit. Isaiah raised an eyebrow. Elijah said, We had different hobbies. You were supposed to be learning trumpet. I was bad at trumpet. They entered the side corridor. Elijah moved fast, but not carelessly. The building had old offices, storage rooms, and a long hall that led toward the control room. He placed one camera facing the office door, another near the hallway corner, and a third above a broken cabinet where it could see the safe. Isaiah watched the entrance. Elijah connected the feed to Grace's phone, Pastor Ruth's phone at the church, and his own recorder. Signal is weak, but it holds. From Grace's phone, Pastor Ruth's voice came through. We see the office. At Black Grace Baptist Church, the sanctuary was no longer quiet prayer. It was controlled waiting. Deacon Miles stood near the back with a charger strip. Sister Jean held a notebook and wrote down times. Mr. Abernathy sat in the front pew with his phone raised. Martha Reed and Tommy Ellis sat together near Pastor Ruth. Tommy leaned forward when the feed showed Cedar Mill's office. That's where Carter thinks the page is? Pastor Ruth nodded. That is where pride is taking him. Back at the mill, Isaiah and Elijah moved to the control room. It overlooked part of the factory floor and the office corridor. Elijah set the main phone low on a metal shelf and tested the audio. Grace's voice came through his earpiece. Say something, Elijah said. Control room, live. Time is 7:06 p.m. Cedar Mill. Pastor Ruth answered. Church feed received. Isaiah looked through a cracked interior window. This place still has county storage labels. Elijah followed his gaze. Boxes sat along the far wall with old tags. Cedar Falls Property Office. Tax transfer copies. Mill disposition file. Several boxes had fresh tape. They were here recently, Elijah said. Isaiah looked at him. Take pictures. Elijah photographed the boxes, labels, doorways, and the safe in the office. Done. Outside, headlights moved across the side road. Grace's voice came low. County van approaching. 2 sheriff's vehicles behind it. I am moving to position. Isaiah turned toward the stairs. We stay here. Elijah nodded, but his hand tightened on the phone. The county van stopped near the loading entrance. Carter stepped out first. He opened the side door himself. A deputy lowered the ramp. Maya appeared in her wheelchair. She did not look frightened. She looked tired, but her chin stayed level. Grace stood beside the van and spoke to Carter while recording. Deputy Voss, I object to moving my client to Cedar Mill for any questioning or property identification before full review of the order. Carter ignored her and pointed toward the entrance. You can object in writing. I am objecting on video. Good. Spell my name right. Judge Warren Bellamy arrived in a black sedan at 7:12 p.m. He stepped out with a leather folder under one arm. His suit was neat, his expression controlled. Grace turned her phone toward him. Judge Bellamy, are you supervising this evidence disposition personally? Bellamy looked at her with practiced patience. Miss Holloway, this is an administrative county matter. You are present at an abandoned mill with a detained woman less than 1 hour before records connected to her case are scheduled for destruction. That is not administrative. That is extraordinary. Bellamy gave her a thin smile. Your objection is noted. Maya looked from Bellamy to Carter. You both came. Carter leaned closer. You should feel honored. Maya answered. No. I feel confirmed. Bellamy's eyes narrowed. Miss Williams, tonight can still end quietly. You identify any county property you removed or concealed. You sign a corrective statement, and this county may consider leniency. Grace said. She signs nothing. Carter pushed Maya's chair toward the office entrance. Isaiah stiffened in the control room. Elijah whispered, Don't. Isaiah did not move. Carter, Bellamy, Maya, Grace, and one county clerk entered the old office. The safe stood against the back wall. The cameras caught them clearly. Elijah checked the live stream. Audio? Pastor Ruth's voice came through. We hear them. Grace placed her phone on the office desk. Still recording. For the record, time is 7:16 p.m. Present are Maya Williams, Deputy Carter Voss, Judge Warren Bellamy, myself, and county staff. Bellamy looked at the phone. This is not a courtroom, Grace replied. No, that is the problem. Carter set a paper in front of Maya. This is your last chance. Maya read the title, Corrective Statement of Evidence, Possession and False Allegation. She looked at Carter. You brought me here to sign a lie. I brought you here to save your sons from what comes next. Grace stepped in. Do not answer that, Maya. Maya kept her eyes on Carter. What comes next? Carter smiled. Military review, federal questions, headlines. 2 grown men in uniform intimidating a deputy in a public diner. You want that on them? In the control room. Isaiah's hand closed against the window frame. Elijah kept recording. Bellamy opened his folder. Miss Williams, the court is prepared to accept your statement that past accusations against the Voss family were based on confusion, grief, and improper influence. You may leave Cedar Falls by morning, and this matter can remain limited. Maya looked at the safe, then at the document. What about Nathan and Lila Brooks? Carter's expression changed. Bellamy shut the folder halfway. Those names are not relevant to tonight's disposition, Maya said. They are the reason you are both standing here. Carter stepped closer. Careful, Maya. Grace glanced toward her phone. The feed was still live. Maya folded her hands in her lap. No, she said. I have been careful for years. Tonight, I want you to explain something. Bellamy looked at the clock on the office wall. 7:22. Explain what? Carter asked. Maya looked directly at him. If the Cedar Mill records are obsolete, why did you need me here to make them disappear? Carter did not answer right away. He looked at Bellamy, and for one brief moment, the deputy and the judge forgot Maya was watching them. Bellamy's face stayed controlled, but his eyes gave Carter a warning. Grace saw it. So did Maya. Carter turned back. You always twist things. Maya looked at the paper on the desk, then untwisted. Why am I here? You are here because you held county evidence. No. You could have searched my house at 6. You could have filed another order. You could have waited for your records clerk. Instead, you brought me to Cedar Mill before 8 and put a false statement in front of me. Bellamy said, Miss Williams, this conversation is not productive. It is for me. Grace kept her hand near her phone. Let her answer, only if she chooses. Maya looked at Carter. You want me to say, I lied about the Voss family. Carter tapped the paper. You did lie. Then why do you need my signature? Carter's mouth tightened. Bellamy stepped forward. Because false accusations create public harm. Your statement would correct the record. Maya turned to him. The public record? The one you control? Bellamy's voice lowered. Be careful. Maya gave a short breath. That word again. Carter shoved the pen across the desk. Sign it. Maya did not move. Carter leaned closer. You sign this, and those boys walk away with their careers. You refuse, and I make sure every agency that ever trusted them hears they used military training to threaten an officer. Grace said, That is retaliation. Carter pointed at her. That is reality. In the control room, Isaiah stepped back from the window and pressed both hands against the metal shelf. Elijah kept one eye on him and one eye on the feed. Stay with me, Elijah whispered. Isaiah did not answer. Inside the office, Maya looked at the pen. You still think I raised them to be afraid of paperwork? Carter smiled. I think you raised them to be loyal. Loyal men make stupid choices when their mama is cornered. Maya's eyes lifted. I did not raise them to become what hurt them. Bellamy glanced at the clock. 7:29. Deputy Voss, he said. Open the safe. The county clerk moved forward with a ring of keys and a small document log. His hands were unsteady. He unlocked the safe and pulled open the heavy door. Inside were old folders, rolled property maps, and a sealed evidence envelope marked Cedar Mill disposition file. Carter grabbed the envelope and placed it on the desk. There, he said. County property. Nothing mystical, nothing hidden, just paper. Maya looked at the envelope. If it is just paper, why did your father spend his life afraid of it? Carter froze. Bellamy snapped. Deputy. But Carter had already turned. My father was not afraid of anything, Maya said. Then why did he close Pine Creek before state investigators arrived? Carter stepped toward her. You don't say his name. Raymond Voss. Carter's face changed. Grace spoke softly. Maya. But Maya did not stop. Your father stood on a road beside two bodies and called it an accident before the rain stopped. He had Nathan and Lila blamed before their family was notified. Bellamy said, This is old grief, not evidence. Maya turned to him. Then why are you here, Judge? Bellamy's jaw set. Carter grabbed the confession paper and pushed it closer. Sign. No. He lowered his voice. You think those cameras save you? You think your Atlanta lawyer saves you? By 8 o'clock, the records are gone. By midnight, anything left here moves to county storage. By tomorrow, nobody can prove what was here. Grace said, Thank you for confirming the midnight transfer. Carter looked at her. She smiled faintly. On video, he glanced at the desk phone, then at Grace's phone. Bellamy's face tightened. Deputy, stop talking. Maya saw the fear begin to show around the edges. You told Tommy the same thing, she said. Carter's eyes narrowed. What? You told him Bellamy would bury every motion until Cedar Mill was gone. You told him by midnight anything left at the mill would move. You told him my sons would have nothing but church gossip. Carter turned toward Bellamy. That boy was recording? Bellamy's voice went cold. You spoke to him alone? Carter snapped back. I handled it, Grace said. No, Deputy. You documented it. The county clerk looked toward the door. Bellamy noticed. Mr. Haskins, remain where you are. The clerk stopped. Maya looked at him. You don't have to help them erase this. Carter slammed his hand on the desk. Enough. Isaiah moved toward the control room door. Elijah grabbed his arm. No. He hit the desk beside her. And she is making him talk. Don't take that from her. Isaiah's breathing stayed controlled, but his eyes did not leave the feed. In the office, Carter pulled another form from Bellamy's folder. Fine. You want truth? Here it is. Sign this, or I request immediate detention for your sons as material participants in obstruction. Grace stepped forward. You have no basis for that. I have badge footage from the diner. You mean the footage where you coerced her? I have witness testimony. You mean Tommy, who recorded you coaching him? Carter's face reddened. Bellamy held up one hand. Everyone, stop. He turned to Maya with polished calm. Miss Williams, you are not a foolish woman. You know what happens when small people try to carry matters too large for them. Your life becomes consumed by it. You lose your home. You lose your peace. You lose the people you meant to protect. This document gives you an exit. Maya looked at him for a long moment. You sound just like the men who told me I was too young to raise two grieving children. Bellamy replied. Perhaps they were right. The words struck the room still. Grace's face hardened. Carter smiled, thinking the judge had landed the blow. Maya did not flinch. No, she said. They were wrong. Those boys lived. They grew. They came home. And that is what scares you most. Bellamy's expression shifted. Carter leaned over the desk again. Last chance. Maya looked at the paper. Then she took the pen. In the control room, Isaiah went rigid. Elijah whispered, Wait. Maya placed the pen tip on the page, but she did not sign her name. Instead, she wrote one sentence in large letters across the confession. I will not lie for the men who buried Nathan and Lila Brooks. Carter stared at the page. Bellamy's voice dropped. Destroy that. Grace reached for it first and pulled it toward her. This is now attorney work product. Carter pointed at the clerk. Take the disposition file. The clerk reached for the Cedar Mill envelope. Maya said, Ask him what page is missing. The clerk stopped again. Carter turned slowly. What did you say? Maya looked at the old safe. The ledger page. The one you believe is in there. The one Tommy told you about. The one Bellamy is afraid of. Ask yourself why you ran here before 8 if you already had it. Bellamy's eyes moved to the safe. Carter followed the look. For the first time, they did not look powerful. They looked uncertain. Grace noticed. You don't know where it is. Maya folded her hands again. No, she said. But you thought I did. And that was enough to bring both of you back to Cedar Mill. The office went quiet. Then, from the old hallway beyond the office, a small sound came through the live stream feed. A door opened. Elijah looked toward the control room monitor. Tommy Ellis stepped into view on the far camera, holding something flat beneath his jacket. Elijah's eyes widened. Isaiah whispered, What is he doing here? In the office. Carter had not seen him yet. Maya had. Her face changed, but she said nothing. Tommy moved toward the old safe with his eyes down. Still wearing the frightened look Carter trusted, Tommy kept his head down as he entered the office. Carter turned first. What are you doing here? Tommy stopped near the doorway. His shoulders were tense, and his hands stayed close to his jacket. You told me to stay available, he said. I told you to stay at the sheriff's office. No, sir. You told me to stay available. Carter stared at him, irritated but not alarmed. This is not the time. Tommy looked at the safe. I thought you needed help with the old files. Bellamy studied him. Who brought you here? Nobody. I walked from the diner after Miss Martha dropped me near town. Tommy swallowed. I didn't want to mess up again. Carter's expression softened just enough to show he believed the fear. Then stand there and stay quiet. Tommy nodded. Grace watched him closely. Maya watched Carter watching him. In the control room, Elijah whispered into the live channel. Tommy is in the office. Do not move. Pastor Ruth's voice came back from the church. We see him. Isaiah's hands stayed at his sides, but every part of him was ready. Inside the office, Bellamy turned back to the safe. Deputy, remove the disposition file. We are wasting time. Grace checked the clock on her phone. 7:41 p.m. Bellamy looked at her. Your objection is noted. Grace answered. So is the time. Carter reached into the safe and pulled out the Cedar Mill disposition file. He placed it on the desk and opened it. Inside were land transfer summaries, storage inventories, old hearing notices, and several loose pages. Elijah zoomed the camera from the control room. Maya looked at the file. "That isn't complete," Carter said. "You don't get to decide what complete means." "No. The missing page does." Bellamy closed his folder. "There is no missing page." Tommy took one small step toward the safe. "Deputy Voss?" Carter snapped. "What?" Tommy pointed. "There's a loose panel inside." At the back, Carter looked at the safe. Bellamy's head turned slowly toward Tommy. "How would you know that?" Tommy's throat moved. "Old buildings have hiding places. Mr. Reed used to say county men hide more than money." Carter stepped toward the safe and reached inside. His fingers found the back panel. It shifted. For the first time all evening, Bellamy lost color in his face. "Deputy," he said. Carter pulled the panel free. Behind it was a flat envelope, wrapped in yellowed plastic. The room went silent. Maya's hand closed on the armrest of her wheelchair. Grace raised her phone higher. Carter looked at the envelope. "What is this?" Maya answered. "The part your father missed." Bellamy stepped forward. "Do not open that without court supervision." Grace gave him a hard look. "You are the suspect, Judge. You do not get to supervise the evidence against you." Carter held the envelope as if he no longer knew whether it was proof or poison. Tommy spoke, his voice still small. "You wanted the page before 8. Carter turned toward him. Tommy did not move. Maya said, "Open it, Carter." Bellamy spoke sharply. "Deputy, stop." Carter looked from Bellamy to Maya. His pride made the decision before his judgment could. He tore open the plastic and pulled out a single ledger page. Elijah's camera caught it. Grace stepped close enough to read without touching. The top of the page read Cedar Mill Disbursement Ledger. The date was 2 days before Pine Creek. Grace read aloud, each word clear. "Payment route authorized. County transfer protection. Recipient, Raymond Voss." Carter's face tightened. Grace continued. "Judicial review secured. Initials WB," Bellamy said. "Those initials prove nothing." Grace looked at the next line. "Brooks couple identified source. Remove risk before hearing." The words stopped the room. Isaiah closed his eyes in the control room, then opened them again. Elijah's hand shook once, but the camera stayed steady. Maya did not look away from Carter. Carter grabbed the page. "That doesn't mean what you think." Maya's voice stayed low. "Then tell us what it means." Bellamy stepped toward the desk. "This conversation ends now." Grace said, "No, it does not." Carter pointed at Maya. "Your people never knew when to stop. Nathan and Lila should have taken the warning. They found land records and payment routes and thought they could drag my father into a state hearing." Maya asked, "So Raymond Voss stopped them?" Carter shook his head. "My father protected this town from a scandal that would have ruined families. Black families were already ruined," Bellamy said. "Those properties were processed through lawful county channels." Maya turned to him. "Channels you signed." Bellamy's mouth tightened. Carter kept going. "The Brookses were going to hand names to state investigators. Bellamy's name. My father's name. Men who built order in this county," Grace said. "And Pine Creek?" Carter stopped. Maya leaned forward. "Say it." Carter stared at her. "You dragged me here to make me sign a lie. Now say the truth." Bellamy moved closer to Carter. "Do not answer." But Carter's anger was already ahead of him. "Pine Creek was handled," Carter said. "That is all it was. Handled. My father made sure 2 troublemakers did not tear this town apart. The church live stream caught every word. At Black Grace, Sister Jean began to cry without making a sound. Martha covered her mouth. Pastor Ruth stood with one hand on the pew in front of her. Tommy's recorded feed and Elijah's cameras kept running. Grace looked at Carter. "You just admitted your father obstructed a state investigation into the deaths of Nathan and Lila Brooks." Carter's eyes went to her phone. Only then did he understand. He looked toward the corners of the office, then toward the hallway. Elijah stepped out from the control room entrance. Phone raised. "You should have checked the wiring before you confessed," Elijah said. Every word went out live. Isaiah appeared beside him in full uniform. Carter stepped back. "You." Isaiah's voice was steady. "Us." Bellamy turned toward Grace. "You had no authorization to broadcast from county property." Grace answered. You had no authorization to turn a disposal order into a cover-up. Maya looked at Tommy. You knew where the page was? Tommy shook his head. No, ma'am. I only knew Mr. Reed said old safes had false backs. When Carter believed the page was here, I figured the only place he would not check was the place he thought he controlled. Carter moved toward Tommy. You little... Isaiah stepped once into the doorway, not touching Carter, not threatening him, only blocking the path. Carter stopped. Grace spoke into her phone. This is Grace Holloway at Cedar Mill. We have live admission, physical evidence, and active interference by a sitting judge and deputy sheriff. Move now. Outside, tires rolled over gravel. Bellamy heard them first. Carter looked toward the window. Blue and white lights filled the cracked office glass. Maya looked at the confession paper still on the desk, the one she had refused to sign. Then she looked at Carter. You thought you were making me confess, she said. You signed your own. The office door opened behind them. A federal investigator stepped in with 2 state officers and looked directly at Carter Voss. Deputy Voss, he said. Step away from the evidence. The federal investigator did not raise his voice. That made Carter look worse. Carter still held the ledger page in one hand. For a second, he looked down at it, then toward Bellamy, then toward the open door where state officers stood. He seemed to measure the room and find no exit that still belonged to him. Grace stepped forward. That page is original evidence. Deputy Voss removed it from a concealed compartment and opened it on camera. The investigator held out a gloved hand. Deputy, place the document on the desk. Carter's jaw worked. This is county property. Place it on the desk. Bellamy lifted his chin. I am Judge Warren Bellamy. This entire proceeding is irregular. You are interfering with a county disposition order. The investigator turned to him. Judge Bellamy, I am Special Agent Daniel Price. Federal jurisdiction was triggered the moment this evidence connected alleged local obstruction to civil rights violations, interstate property transfers, and potential interference with a state inquiry. Your order does not outrank a federal preservation demand. Bellamy's mouth closed. Carter placed the ledger page on the desk. Grace immediately slid an evidence sleeve beside it without touching the page. Agent Price, I also have the diner footage, the archive scans, Maya Williams's original cassette statement, Tommy Ellis's recorded interview, and a live recording of Deputy Voss discussing the 8 p.m. destruction deadline and midnight transfer. A state officer looked at Carter. Deputy Voss, step away from the desk. Carter did not move. Isaiah stood near the doorway. His hands were visible. Elijah kept the phone raised. Tommy remained behind Grace, breathing fast but quiet. Maya sat in her wheelchair at the center of the office, watching Carter lose the room he thought he owned. Agent Price spoke again. Deputy Voss. Carter stepped back. One state officer moved to the desk and secured the ledger page. Another collected the Cedar Mill disposition file. A third officer photographed the safe, the false back panel, the confession paper Maya had refused to sign, and Bellamy's folder. Bellamy straightened his jacket. I demand to speak with the state attorney general, Grace said. You may want a defense attorney first. He turned toward her with cold anger. You have no idea what you have done, Grace answered. I have a very clear idea. So does everyone watching. Bellamy looked toward Elijah's phone. Elijah did not lower it. At Black Grace Baptist Church, the sanctuary watched the feed in silence. Pastor Ruth stood at the front with her phone connected to a small speaker. Martha Reed sat with both hands clasped under her chin. Tommy's grandmother had arrived during the final minutes and now gripped Martha's arm while listening to every word. On the screen, Carter pointed toward Elijah. He illegally recorded inside county property. Agent Price looked at Elijah. Were you ordered off the property? No, sir. Did you alter the evidence? No, sir. Did you physically prevent any county official from performing a duty? No, sir. Grace added. The recording captured officials attempting to pressure my client into signing a false statement and discussing destruction of relevant records. Agent Price nodded once. Then the recording will be preserved. Carter's face reddened. You cannot let them walk out of here. A state officer answered. Deputy, you are no longer giving instructions. The words hit harder than any shout could have. Carter looked at the officer. I still wear a badge. Agent Price turned to the state officer. Secure his service credentials. The room went still. Carter's hand moved toward his chest, then stopped when he saw every phone, every camera, every officer watching him. The state officer stepped in front of him. Deputy Carter Voss, by authority of the State Investigative Division, you are suspended from active duty pending investigation. Remove your badge. Carter did not move. The officer repeated, "Remove it." Carter's fingers rose slowly to the badge pinned to his uniform. His hand shook with rage, not fear. He unfastened it and held it for a moment, as if metal could remember power after power had left it. "Place it on the desk," the officer said. Carter placed the badge beside the false confession form. Maya watched it land. For years, Carter had used that badge to make people lower their voices, change their statements, and step aside. Now, it sat flat on an old desk under a camera lens. Bellamy spoke sharply. "This is theater." Pastor Ruth's voice came from Grace's phone, clear through the open connection. "No, Judge. Theater is what you did in court. This is the record." Bellamy turned toward the phone. "Pastor Coleman, you are involving yourself in matters beyond your understanding." Pastor Ruth answered, "I understood enough to keep listening." Agent Price looked at Bellamy. "Judge Warren Bellamy, you are being detained for questioning regarding evidence tampering, obstruction, and conspiracy to deprive citizens of protected rights." Bellamy's face stiffened. "I will not be detained in my own county," Grace said. "That is the problem, Judge. You thought the county was yours." A state officer stepped toward Bellamy. "Sir, place your hands where I can see them." Bellamy looked at Carter, but Carter had nothing left to give him. The officer secured Bellamy's wrists with handcuffs. The sound was small, but everyone heard it. Carter backed toward the wall. "This is all based on an old woman's lies and a kid's trick." Maya looked at him. "You called me a girl this morning." Carter glared at her. Maya continued. "You called Tommy a kid when he told the truth. You called my sons dangerous when they stayed calm. You called my home county property. You called a murder an accident. You keep renaming things because the real names scare you." Agent Price turned to Carter. "Deputy Voss, you are also being detained." Carter looked around again. The office, the safe, the cameras, the men he had mocked, the woman he had tried to break. Nothing obeyed him. A state officer took his arm. Carter pulled back once, then stopped. The cameras remained steady. Elijah lowered his phone only enough to look at Tommy. "You all right?" Tommy nodded, but his face had gone pale. Isaiah moved beside him. "You did good." Tommy shook his head. "I almost didn't," Isaiah said. "Almost doesn't matter. You did." Outside the office, reporters had gathered behind the federal perimeter. Their cameras caught Carter and Bellamy as they were led out of Cedar Mill. Carter kept his head high at first, but the flash of cameras broke through his posture. Bellamy tried to speak, but Agent Price told him to save it for counsel. Martha's voice came through the live stream from the church. "Maya, I'm sorry." Maya looked toward Grace's phone. Martha continued, her voice unsteady. "He told me to erase the footage. He threatened my diner. I was scared, and I let fear make me quiet. I won't be quiet in court." Maya's eyes softened. "Then that is where you start." Grace gathered the signed orders, the confession form, the recording devices, and the evidence copies into separate folders. She labeled each one, while Agent Price watched. Elijah handed over the live stream backup. "There are cloud copies." Agent Price took it. "Good." Isaiah stood beside Maya. "What happens now?" Grace looked at him. "Now the case gets bigger." Agent Price answered. "The sheriff's office will be reviewed. The courthouse records will be frozen. Cedar Mill files are preserved. The Pine Creek case will be reopened." Isaiah's face changed at those words, but he said nothing. Elijah looked down at the sealed letter still in Maya's evidence folder. "And our parents?" Agent Price's voice softened. "We follow the evidence." Maya reached for Elijah's hand, then Isaiah's. "No more hiding," she said. Outside, Carter was placed into a state vehicle. Bellamy was placed into another. Their badges, orders, and titles could not close the doors for them this time. At the church, Pastor Ruth turned to the gathered congregation. "You all saw it. You all heard it. Remember this night when they ask you what happened. Deacon Miles said. We'll remember. Sister Jean wiped her face. And we'll testify. Back at Cedar Mill, Grace looked at the clock. 8:03 p.m. The hour Bellamy had chosen to erase the records had passed. The records were still there. The ledger page was in federal custody. The confession was live, copied, and witnessed. Maya looked toward the old safe. For years, she said, I thought that place was holding the truth hostage. Isaiah asked. And now? Maya turned toward the open doorway, where federal lights filled the mill yard, and reporters waited beyond the line. Now it is holding evidence. By morning, Cedar Falls knew. The first report came from a regional station out of Atlanta. By noon, every local channel had stopped using Carter's words and started using Grace Holloway's evidence. The diner footage played. Tommy's recording played. The Cedar Mill live stream spread faster than the sheriff's office could answer calls. Deputy Carter Voss was charged with coercion, obstruction, evidence tampering, witness intimidation, and conspiracy connected to the Cedar Mill records. Judge Warren Bellamy was suspended pending federal investigation. The courthouse records room was sealed by state order. The sheriff's office came under review. Every file tied to Cedar Mill, Pine Creek, and the old land seizures was frozen before anyone could move another box. Maya did not celebrate. For 2 days, she stayed mostly inside Black Grace Baptist Church. Pastor Ruth gave her the small room behind the choir loft, the one with a narrow bed, a lamp, and a window facing the cemetery. Isaiah and Elijah slept on folding chairs outside her door, though she told them not to. On the third morning, Grace came in with a stack of papers and a softer expression than usual. The Pine Creek case is officially reopened, she said. Isaiah stood first. Elijah stayed seated, both hands clasped between his knees. Maya looked at Grace. As what? Grace took a breath. As a criminal investigation. Elijah closed his eyes. Isaiah looked toward the floor, then back at Grace. And Raymond Voss? Named in the federal filing as a central figure in the original obstruction. Maya's hand moved to the sealed letter from Lila Brooks, resting on the table beside her. Grace noticed. You can open it now. Or not. That belongs to your family, not the court. Maya looked at Isaiah and Elijah. It was never mine to keep forever. Elijah's voice was quiet. But you kept it safe. Maya nodded once. I tried. Isaiah sat beside her. Then we read it together. Maya opened the envelope carefully. The paper inside had aged, but the handwriting was clear. She did not read it aloud at first. Her eyes moved across the page, and her mouth tightened when she reached the end. Then she handed it to Elijah. He read the first lines, stopped, and passed it to Isaiah. Isaiah read slower. When he finished, he held the letter with both hands. Maya said, She loved you. Isaiah's voice roughened. She knew they might not come home. Yes. Elijah looked at the page again. She asked you to protect us. Maya swallowed. She asked me not to let the town teach you that your parents died, because they were careless. Isaiah folded the letter along its old crease. You did more than that. No, Maya said. I did what I could. Pastor Ruth entered with coffee and stood in the doorway. Sometimes what we can do is the only miracle God asks from us. No one argued. Over the next months, Cedar Falls changed in public ways before it changed in private ones. The sheriff's office lost men who had spent years believing their uniforms were family property. Bellamy's courtroom was locked while investigators reviewed old orders. Families came forward with tax notices, forced sale papers, and stories they had carried for decades without witnesses. Martha Reed testified first before a state panel. Her voice shook, but she did not take back a word. She said Carter threatened her diner. She said she let fear hold her tongue. She said Maya Williams had been telling the truth, while everyone else pretended silence was peace. Tommy Ellis testified behind closed doors, with Grace beside him and his grandmother in the hallway, holding a paper cup of water she never drank. When he came out, Maya was waiting. He tried to speak, but she opened her arms first. He bent down and hugged her. I was scared, he said. I know. I still said it. Yes, Maya said. You did. When reporters asked Carter for comment, His attorney said nothing. When they asked Bellamy, his office released a statement about due process and unfounded allegations. But the footage from Cedar Mill had already done what years of whispers could not. It had made private truth public. 6 months later, Cedar Falls gathered at Pine Creek. The county had cleared a small area near the roadside where Nathan and Lila Brooks had been blamed, forgotten, and finally named. There were folding chairs, church fans, veterans in pressed jackets, women from the choir, former mill workers, families holding old property folders, and reporters standing farther back than usual because Pastor Ruth told them this was not a show. Maya sat in her wheelchair at the front. Isaiah and Elijah stood on either side of her in full uniform. This time, they did not hide it under jackets. The town could see exactly who they had become. Grace stood near the memorial stone. Martha Reed stood behind Tommy and his grandmother. Pastor Ruth held a small Bible against her chest. The stone was simple. It carried the names Nathan Brooks and Lila Brooks, and beneath them the words, "For every truth buried by fear, and every child raised by love." Pastor Ruth stepped forward. "Today," she said, "we do not give grief the final word. We give it a name. We give it witnesses. We give it a place where no one can file it away in a box and call it finished." A few people bowed their heads. Others looked straight at the stone. Isaiah's hand rested lightly on the back of Maya's chair. Elijah held Lila's letter in a protective sleeve, pressed against his chest. After the prayer, a reporter approached Maya carefully. "Miss Williams, do you believe you saved them?" Maya looked up at Isaiah, then at Elijah. For a moment, she saw the men before her and the children she had once brought home with no plan except love. "No," she said. "I only opened the door when the world closed it on them. They were the ones who walked through and became the light." Isaiah knelt beside her and took her hand. Elijah removed his military cap and placed it in her lap. Maya touched the cap, then the memorial stone, then the letter resting in Elijah's hand. "I used to think justice had to come fair," she said. "Now I know better. Justice does not always arrive fair, but it must arrive true." Pastor Ruth smiled through tears. "Amen." The crowd answered softly, then stronger. "Amen." Across the road, Cedar Mill could not be seen from Pine Creek, but everyone knew it was there. Its files were no longer hidden. Its records were no longer waiting for a match, a shredder, or a judge's quiet signature. Its story had left the building. Maya looked at the names on the stone. For years, fear had told her to survive quietly. For years, she had believed protecting Isaiah and Elijah meant carrying the truth alone. But truth was never meant to be carried by one pair of hands forever. It needed sons. It needed witnesses. It needed a church basement, a diner camera, a frightened young man, an old pastor, a lawyer on the highway, and a town forced to hear what it had trained itself to ignore. As the service ended, people came forward one by one. Some apologized. Some brought old documents. Some only touched Maya's hand and nodded because words came too late. Martha Reed stood before her last. "I should have stood up sooner," Martha said. Maya looked at her. "Then stand now." Martha nodded. "I will." Tommy helped his grandmother toward the car. Grace spoke with 2 families about reopening land claims. Pastor Ruth gathered the choir women for food back at the church, because in Cedar Falls, even justice came with covered dishes and somebody asking whether you had eaten. Isaiah leaned close to Maya. "Ready to go home?" Maya looked toward the road leading back to Black Grace. Her house was no longer sealed. The county tape had been removed. The 2 chipped mugs were still above the sink. "Yes," she said, "but not yet." Elijah asked, "What do you need?" Maya looked once more at Pine Creek. 1 more minute. So they gave it to her. The crowd thinned. The cameras packed up. The late afternoon settled over the roadside, quiet and steady. Maya sat between the 2 sons she had raised and the names of the parents they had lost. Cedar Falls had once believed a poor black woman in a wheelchair could not challenge a badge, a judge, or a family name carved deep into county power. But the town had forgotten that love keeps records too. Maya Williams had raised 2 children when fear told everyone else to look away. Years later, They returned not to repay her with revenge, but to stand beside her while the truth finally spoke. And this time, Cedar Falls listened. Here is the lesson we can take from Maya Williams's story. Truth may be delayed, buried, threatened, or mocked, but it does not disappear when good people refuse to let fear have the final word. Maya's courage reminds us that kindness is never wasted. The love we give quietly today may become the strength that stands beside us tomorrow. And justice, even when it arrives late, can still arrive true. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. Your time, your attention, and your heart mean more than words can say. Please share your thoughts about the way this story was told. Did it move you? Did the pacing feel right? Was there a moment that stayed with you? Your feedback helps this channel tell better, deeper, and more meaningful stories. And if you have a powerful true story, a family memory, or a moment of kindness, injustice, courage, or redemption that deserves to be heard, please send it to the channel. Your story might become the next one that touches someone's heart. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.